cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up almost 4% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 56,738, a high of 57,444, and a low of 53,155. That's $1 for 1,764 Satoshis. Volume is at 10,296 Bitcoins changing hands, perhaps accounting for the unusual chart formation in the past 20 or 30 minutes. As we've been watching the price of Bitcoin has been steadily accelerating upward. The price was right around here below 56,000 when it suddenly took off to 56,700, accelerating almost a minute at $100 a minute, an incredible amount of acceleration for the price of Bitcoin. But we're here to check in with Twitter Spaces, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the Twitter Space and see what's going on Twitter today. What does Twitter think of Bitcoin's incredible price rise? Shout out to Chris Bug in the chat. He's the only one watching the best Bitcoin channel right now. And it could be the only one on Spaces if you'd like to join us in the Mad Bitcoin space. We're getting the word out, sharing some tweets. We are on the lookout for a Bitcoin all-time high. At first, I thought it was nonsense. I thought it wouldn't happen. But then the price jumped about $700 in 10 minutes. It was quite exciting. There we go. Now I'm getting clickbait. There we go. Let's see. Join us. You see these people and they start to use 3 exclamation marks. And then you see these other people and they start to use like 8 exclamation marks. And then you're like, maybe I should use more exclamation marks, right? Maybe I should just go to town. Because apparently people have given up, because it's supposed to be 1, really. 1 exclamation mark is enough. Like if you put 2 or say 3, the house is on fire. You know, that's way too much. Anyway, we're opening up here on Twitter Spaces. Let's see. We've got one guy in the Twitter space. Maybe he'll join us. Maybe he can hear us. Oh, no, he can't even hear us in the Twitter space. I was being silent. Aha, okay, so now you can hear us. So that's an improvement. Shout out to the chat on YouTube. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. It's important to give us thumbs up at the beginning of the show and to also maybe remind other people in the chat to do the thumbs up. Thumbs up. Let's go. Got a couple people checking this out on Spaces. We are watching the price of Bitcoin. The price is $56,494. It's gone down just a little bit from $56,700. recently. Saw some good news come up below, something about grayscale. Israeli pension giant put $100 million into grayscale Bitcoin trust. Jameson Lopp. Bitcoin's energy consumption is not up for debate. The incentives are in place. The game is afoot. Pierre Rochard. After big petrodollar accumulates enough Bitcoin, you'll see all of the mainstream media FUD about carbon and volatility magically disappear. They'll start heavily promoting Bitcoin as a great savings and payment system. Bitcoin for enemies. Bitcoin is for enemies, very adversarial. Hodlnot writes, 20 months later, the combined market cap of Bitch and BSV is down to 1.3% of Bitcoin, trending strongly towards a fair value of 0%. There's been almost $10 billion of Bitcoin withdrawn from exchanges over the past 4 months. Going to go ahead and invite the audience up to speak here on Twitter Spaces. If you're with us, go ahead and say your name and where you're from.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is CoinHawk or Magnet Mill, whatever you might see on your side. I am originally from Maryland, hanging out here in the North Carolina area nowadays, and I appreciate your show, and keep on pushing.
And what do you think about this price of Bitcoin? Do you think we're going to break the all-time high?
I think it's coming. I mean, there may be one more pullback before it actually happens, depending upon some of the news cycle kind of craziness. But I think it's coming, and it'll be, my prediction is $80K by the end of April.
$80K by April. That sounds pretty good. I like the old $100K by 2022. That's pretty good. That's pretty nice. But who knows? I mean, any one of these things, remember, it always goes to 99 or it goes to 98. So let's temper our enthusiasm. If you have a number you want to sell for, it's always good to sell at 48 instead of 50 or something like that. You just got to get a little bit ahead of it because you never know. Everyone's very bullish about Bitcoin. They think it's going to go up forever now, but there's been times in the past where it goes down as well. So
much agreed.
Let's see. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Go ahead and keep giving us a thumbs up and a share. You can join us on Twitter Spaces at Mad Bitcoins, Android or iPhone Twitter app, latest version. So some of the previous versions of Android might not have this Twitter Spaces thing. And how do you get Twitter Spaces? How do you get the power and the ability, the international cosmic forces to make your own Twitter space? I think you get it by hanging out in Twitter Spaces with other people. That's what happened to me. I saw someone on my list in the fleets was having a Twitter space, whatever that is. So I joined in for a while, and later on, I got the power to make my own spaces. And eventually they're going to roll this out to everybody. It's kind of like Twitter's version of Clubhouse.
Yeah, here it's coming out in April. Spaces for everybody. I don't know, what time frame within April, but supposedly April.
Nice. I know they're definitely it's savage, and the world is competition out there, but they're definitely competing against Clubhouse. And you get the feeling that Clubhouse was just about to open up their platform and make it public so that anyone could talk on Clubhouse and all that kind of thing. And you got to figure Twitter saw that, and they're like, not so fast. We have something to say about that. And The thing that a lot of people have been saying is that as nice as Clubhouse has been so far, they don't have the ability to roll out new features like Twitter does. Twitter's missing a couple of small features here. I expect them to add those probably within the week, certainly before the big rollout. And as far as adding in new features like video, which I think will happen, and as fun as this is, the whole pretending that we're up with the whole in the past and using audio, imagine if there was an event happening in the real world in the future when we all go back to the real world and don't have to wear masks and everything, and we could all film it with our Twitter, and then we could all be in a chat room with our Twitter all connected together. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty much what we did years ago with Google Hangouts, but now it's come to Twitter, so it's that much better.
Crazy things are happening. It seems like it's the rate at which, one app takes over or tries to mimic or duplicate another app. It's pretty fast. Like I never really got into the Instagram side of the world, but then just recently I started looking at Instagram IGTV, and you see random people and you can just watch what they're doing, and it's, I don't know, there was a draw to it, but I just couldn't have any amount of real time commitment to it. But the audio somehow seems to come through a little bit better, it seems like.
Yeah, the IGTV, that sounds a little bit like Vine that they used to have back in the day, and then Twitter bought them and they went away. But yeah, it'd be cool. It was really neat on Vine. You could kind of watch everyone waking up in the morning. Like if at certain times you'd see all these people getting on subways and all kinds of different kind of creative ways of getting on the subway car. And at a certain time you'd see everybody making coffee and different creative ways of filming the coffee. But eventually people figured out how to upload non-time linked videos. And then Vine was all about animations and all kinds of other fun stuff. But yeah, people like audio only. It's not bad. We're doing some invitations here, trying to get some more people to join. Let's see what they're saying in the chat. Rolando Tech says, "What's up with Twitter banning Bitcoiners?" And again, everyone's all like, "Oh, it's a ban and it's censorship and all this." It seems like once again that these guys were marked as spam. It sounds like a bunch of people were impersonating them, and that when people went back and marked the impersonators, they also marked these original guys as spam. So if Twitter gets a bunch of reports that someone spammed, they take them down. As expected, they figured out quickly these guys are legit, they're not just spam, and they brought them back up within 24 hours. So it was over quick. It happened before. It happened on Twitter, YouTube. Probably again, they're not having as many human auditors. At least that was the case with YouTube. YouTube switched over to a mainly automated moderating system, and the automated system made many mistakes and thought the Bitcoiners were scammers. The price of Bitcoin is $56,698, just tapping on that 56,700. We've already seen a knock on the door at 57,444. We're looking for something above 58,000, I think, to see an all-time high, if we're going to see it today. Says in the chat, is New York Life about to buy all the Bitcoin? Like New York Life Insurance Company? I've not read anything about that, but it is possible. And I don't know about all. However, it gets much more difficult to buy them all. As you start buying them up, the price goes up, right? So the more money you print, the less Bitcoin you get. Wait a minute. The more money we print, the less Bitcoin we get? This is terrible. Saw someone saying today that the FUD about the power will disappear once the big people get enough Bitcoin. Right now, they're just trying to keep it down. So say hello in the chat. Say your name and where you're from. Let's get a chat going. Give us a thumbs up and a share. I've noticed the shows with more thumbs up get more views, they get more attention from the YouTube. And also, I've noticed that we have the most viewers at the beginning of a show. So it's really important you get in there with a thumbs up at the beginning, and then we'll see what happens. So it says in the chat that the New York Life CEO has joined the NYDIG board. So that's good. What's NYDIG? Digital something group insurance? We're getting some more people here on the Twitter Spaces, looking for people that want to speak. Remember, it's great. You can try out being a co-host. We can practice talk radio together. We are live on Twitter Spaces. They're going to keep it forever. We're also live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, a variety of places. But it's a great time with Twitter Spaces to get your voice out there. If you have a question, you could ask the question, then, back off the stage. If you want to hang out, throw in some comments, put your opinion out there. We're just hanging out, watching the Bitcoin price, wondering if it's going to make an all-time high for us.
NYDIG stands for Digital Investment Group.
Oh, do they have a lot of digital investments?
Big time money coming in.
I have a hard time taking anything in New York seriously after the Bit license. Everything, it's always like, you're investing and you must be getting Dogecoin, right? I mean, you can't get Bitcoin in New York. Bitcoin in New York City. Whew.
Maybe it'll change if Andrew Yang wins for mayor.
There we go. Man, the last I heard on that, I saw a video. He went to like a bodega and bought stuff, and everybody was like mixed on it. And I saw something else where it sounded like he got COVID from going out too much and going to too many bodegas or wherever he's been hanging. So hope he's okay. But yeah.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Science wishes you would stay home. Then science could protect you. Shout out to Kia Watson from Cancun, Mexico. He's hanging out in the YouTube chat, said hello. He says, would you speak about Monero and the importance of real privacy that lacks in Bitcoin? Well, again, real privacy, like, what do you need real privacy for? Like, probably the number one thing you want to do is try to evade taxes. And that's terrible. Like, you shouldn't do that, and there's no way to do that, and they'll come after you. So I think it's a very bad idea to evade the taxes. And the second reason you need real privacy, if you're a secret agent or something like that, and you're like, na 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 na. Okay, you can't sing that much of a song, but so I don't know about the real privacy, but I would like Bitcoin to have better privacy. But once again, I'm an incrementalist here, right? I'm a stoic. I'm being reasonable, and I think that Bitcoin's privacy will get better. Already, Bitcoin has pseudo-anonymous privacy. If you buy your Bitcoins with currency from a random person and your picture isn't taken, so on and so forth, you would then have presumably clean Bitcoin that you could send to someone else, and then they have to then find a person to trade them with. That would be pseudo-anonymous Bitcoin. You can do the same thing with the Lightning Network, and the Lightning Network even kind of mixes up your coins a little bit more. Sure, you could use a coin mixer. So there are some options for some basic rudimentary privacy if you're a secret agent or into other stuff on the Bitcoin. But Monero and other privacy coins do try to offer that for Bitcoin. But again, it's just a matter of scale. Monero is good for, $100,000, but can it do $1 million? Can it do 10 million? How much dirty money do you have to match up with my clean money, et cetera, to keep this privacy thing going? I think eventually you're going to want your privacy solution on your major coin, which is probably going to be Bitcoin. But again, there's other altcoins, and you can check them out. And I sure like Fluffy Pony on Twitter. He seems like a nice guy. He seems really funny. Seems like he likes my Twitter too, so I like that. But let's say here in the Twitter Spaces chat, what do you guys think of Monero and Bitcoin privacy? We'll go to Dan first.
I was just going to quickly say, my bad, Dan, that if you are flagged for fraud, it's to my understanding that the IRS now has unlimited resources and they can go as long and far back as they need to. So just be careful with the Monero if you are really trying to cover anything up, because if you get flagged for tax evasion, they have unlimited resources for you.
I don't know about unlimited, but they definitely have more resources than under the Trump administration. I haven't read any specific funding bills or something that's changed, but at the very least, we can assume that the Biden administration is staffing all of the desks, right? There's this thing of the Trump administration. They didn't even have enough people to appoint for a lot of these positions. So a lot of the government has just gone empty, which again, a lot of libertarians are like, yay, empty government. It's going to non-function, right? Again, that non-functioning is not good for anybody. So
you can follow CJ the Smart Guy on Twitter. He's a CPA, and he's the one who let me know about the fact that if you're flagged for fraud, then they do pretty much get the green light to pursue you for as long as they need.
Yeah, and in 2019, they sent out a bunch of letters to taxpayers, most likely based on Coinbase data. So, a lot of people got them. There were multiple versions of this letter in varying degrees of, severity. So, I don't know how many people actually received them. I know it was probably in the thousands or tens of thousands. But for anyone who hasn't gone back and looked at their returns over the past few years, it was a wake-up call that they are looking, and it's probably a good time to start getting those returns updated if necessary. They actually created a special address for people to update their tax returns and send in amended returns so that they could report unreported income. So they are looking, and also there is an IRS task force that's now offering a reward for anyone who can break the Monero privacy algorithm. So just be on the alert for that.
That's scary.
Anyway, I don't use Monero. I haven't used it in a few years. Not my choice of currency. I'm not really much of a altcoin person myself these days, so I just don't see the value in having anything in Monero. I'm not trading nefariously. I maybe if you're doing things like ransomware, it's probably a good idea. In fact, I think the Trump administration, there was a Trump website during the election that was hacked at one point, and they were asking for ransom in Monero, which I don't know if it was ever paid.
See, now at least we're making progress. We're making progress on hacking tools. The price of Bitcoin has just jumped up another $100, another $200, 56,930. That's another $250, 950. I feel like an auctioneer here. I'm watching Bitcoinal, and it's practically breaking the chart sometimes. Every $100 that the price goes up on bitcoinal.com, which is DJ Booth's amazing price chart that's fun to watch, it brings up a GIF, right? It's not supposed to happen all the time. But the price of Bitcoin just went up $250, and now it just went up $290. We're just trying to get one more GIF. We're at 56,990. This is fun, huh, Dan?
I think we'll see 60 by the end of the week at this rate.
That's $57,000. The gentleman is clapping on the chart. Everyone's clapping in the chat.
Say the website again. Bitcoinal?
Yep, bitcoinal.com. It's like a seasonal Bitcoin chart. When the price is going up, it's all bright and green. When the price is going down, it's like it's snowing and it's raining. It has a little weather to it. You can also, if you're OCD, you can clean up the beach. You can move around your little cursor and it'll pick up things to make the site cleaner. Then you can take that number down in the corner and you can bet it on the price of Bitcoin. So I'm going to bet on the price of Bitcoin going up.
Now, mine has a Nicolas Cage meme on it.
Nice.
Not sure. It just went away. But yeah, this is fun. I'll definitely be playing with this.
Let's go down the chart. Let's see. We've got questions in the chat. DeSander says, "Hey, I'm here from Israel. I just discovered that my pension firm has invested in Bitcoin." That's pretty exciting. That's pretty surprising too. Really lucky. I have a nice pension firm. Rolando Tech says, "Everyone will come to Bitcoin eventually. The dominoes have started to fall." They say, in their 175-year history, New York Life has never had a CEO sit on the board of another company. So Jack Roberts is super excited about the New York Digital Investment Group and New York Life. We'll have to bring it up. Let's see. Soros Fund, New York Life.
Have you talked about the Grayscale ETF that's coming?
Not that much. I saw something about Grayscale.
So it looks like they're hiring for a lot of positions in ETF management and compliance and marketing. So, and it's funny because they didn't have to actually say ETF in any of the job listings, but they went ahead and did it anyway. So that's probably a good sign.
Says 9 new job postings indicate Grayscale is considering joining the race to win the SEC's first Bitcoin ETF. Exciting.
Yeah, I actually went in on some Grayscale earlier in the month. So that was before it started trading closer to the price. It was at a premium, I guess, because for whatever reason they hadn't balanced it yet. So it was like anywhere from like 5 to 10% lower than the Bitcoin price. So I had some money in my SoFi account and I just threw it into Grayscale. So picked up a few shares, which is fun. I'll just let that ride.
I know for a while there was a premium because there was no competition in the ETF space. Then the Canadian ETFs opened up and suddenly that premium went away.
Yeah, I think that's part of what it was. I'm not sure if it was just the Canadian ETFs, but since I think, is it true that Americans can buy into that? I'm not even sure.
I don't know. I think you'd have to use Canadian dollars. Who wants to do that? Loonies. That's mad.
I've got a whole drawer full of them.
That's mad. The price of Bitcoin is $57,125. Does seem like it's starting to climb out of a valley. We're about to face the 57,444 previous from March the 10th at 11:20 a.m.
BitConnect.
Hey.
Yeah, like on one hand, I'm really excited about seeing it, and then on the other hand, I'm kind of sad because I want to get more people that I love involved for a better price point. So part of me wants it to climb, and part of me also wants another nice little dip in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it does seem more and more like Bitcoin's leaving the chance to be there for normal people behind. But that's happened many times before, and it's also, I still feel there's someday it's going to go down, and the more that it goes up, the more that it's going to go down. So I just don't know.
I'm not sure that's true this time, only because
what
of
they
the
say
quality of the investors coming in. But I'm not one to bet, so for me it's just a hold and ride situation. But I mean, it'll definitely come down at some point. But I don't know about the 80% pullbacks we've seen. That may be something that goes away only because there's a lot more long-term institutional level capital that will pick it up. But anyone's guess.
Yeah, I mean, JP Morgan just filed and mentioned Bitcoin with the SEC. So we have institutions coming in at a global scale now too. You got places like Iran that are investing in mining. So yeah, fortunately, yet unfortunately, we might not see the 80% retrace that is something we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think part of that good plan is to continue to try to just stack the sats, just try to continue to accumulate and somehow try to form some kind of business around that funneling of money that's still coming in for anybody that's, hasn't been in for a long time.
And also, I mean, like people who buy just out of hype don't understand necessarily. So we're going to get a bunch of people in the future that are still willing to sell their Bitcoin because they don't quite understand what they're holding just yet. So there's still going to be opportunity to stack sats for sure.
It's that institutions don't FOMO in. They have to really get the board on the same page and write up multi-year plans, and they've got the capital to buy in if the price goes down. So it's a different animal. We're not just talking about millennials and Gen Xers buying in at this point. So with their salaries, this is we're talking billions of dollars that are just waiting on the sidelines and have been waiting for years, and they could have bought in when the price was $1,000. But for them, 50,000, 60,000 isn't really much of a drop in the bucket when you look at the size of their accounts and their balance sheets. It's still probably a small percentage of what they could put in that would still allow them to have exposure and hopefully keep the markets from dropping too low.
Yeah, I can see both, because you have cities like Miami and places in Florida like Seminole County that are allowing people to pay taxes and fines in Bitcoin. So you have that one avenue to sort of quote unquote siphon Bitcoin off of the little guy. But then also I think that there are institutions that are greedy and they are going to make the mistake of trying to short Bitcoin. And that's when people like me and I believe you guys who understand what's going on are going to eat those dips up and they're going to regret it. Not that I own any Bitcoin. Oh, what up, Dante? I see you down there. You need to bless him with your voice up here.
Dante's on board. Welcome.
I'm about to cut out, guys. I got to do some
human
things in the real world. Be safe, all of y'all.
How's everybody doing? Take care, man.
Hey, Dante. How's it going, man?
I'm well, brother. I can't complain. How are you?
I was just watching the Bitcoin price, and I was like, whenever I start a show and try to get it to go to the all-time high, it never goes there. But then while I was watching it, it started going like $100 a minute. I was like, this is way too much up. Like, who's making it go up this much? And then now that I started the show, it slowed back down.
Of course, right? Yeah, that's always how it works, man.
But yeah, just hanging out, doing the Twitter Spaces thing, rearranged my desk. I think I like it so far. I just want a bigger desk and more monitors.
Yo, man, my wife she went out and got me some stuff to organize my desk because I have a ton of like gadgets and stuff on my desk. I'm in IT, so I'm always playing with something new. And so she went out to get me some stuff to organize my desk. I'm just chilling with the kids. I'll be doing a podcast later and trading a little bit later on. So looking forward to this evening.
Nice. I saw a web post about how to store your cables, and they said you should just get plain Ziploc bags, big ones. You write on them with a Sharpie, and every time you get a new device, you put the cables, the manual, all the other stuff into that bag, and then you just put all the bags in a big box. But I still have
That's actually smart. That's actually smart. I have they're like Tupperware dishes that I keep cables in, and then I stack them up.
Yeah, Tupperware would be good. I've got a bunch of individual bags right now, but there's just too many types of cables. And I feel so ridiculous when I look at them. I'm like, why am I saving these? And I'm like, I don't know. I might need a SCSI cable. And then all these different USBs. And I've got like 3 of every kind of USB. I've got USBs I've never even seen before. I'm like, I need to save that. What if that comes up? I'm gonna need that.
What if you really need that one printer cable, the one with the square connector,
the big one, the parallel cable? I used to have so many cables. Like all this stuff might come back. You know.
They used to, before the pandemic, they used to have electronics recycling drives where you could just show up and drop off all your stuff. But now I've just got a big bag collecting dust under my bed, waiting for the next opportunity to take care of that. Just every few years, I've got just boxes of cables I have to dump.
At least you're willing to do it. Yeah. Go ahead, Carmen.
No, I was just saying, sounds so familiar. In this past year, hi everybody, by the way. Big fan of your work, Thomas, I should say. I was in this past year with everything that's been going on. I've literally spent some time just getting stuff out of the loft, and the amount of boxes full of cables. I didn't think I was a hoarder. Honestly, I didn't think I was a hoarder. But the amount of stuff in terms of cables I've pulled out of the loft is unreal. Literally 7 or 8 boxes full of old aux cables, SCART cables. I don't know if you guys even know what I mean by SCART over there in North America, but SCART is an old connection we used to use before HDMI in Europe. Composite component, you name it. It was just insane. My wife was like, well, that'll take some weight out of the loft.
Well, I have the same thing, and then I've got old video game controllers and different video game systems and different TV controllers. I have one bag that's just full of, those big bricks that plug into the wall, like those big bricks that go with hard drives. And I need them, right? Because what if I have a hard drive that needs one of those bricks? I'm going to dig it into my big bag of bricks.
You never know. You never know. Absolutely. It's always best to be prepared.
Yeah, I think it's different when it's digital stuff, right? But then again, I'm just making excuses for my collection. What is it? Everybody else's stuff is junk, but your stuff is stuff. Something like that, George Carlin.
Yeah. Does everybody here, just out of curiosity, does everybody here use Lightning as well or not?
I use it in the custodial sense, in the easy way to use it. I haven't quite used it in the full node, make your own channels thing yet.
I'm so itching to go down that route.
We were going to do a Lightning Education Day on here.
Yo, that would be yeah, that would be amazing.
That would be. I mean, as somebody, personally, I try and give away as much Lightning sats as possible over Twitter. And I literally just use it straight off a Blue Wallet or Wallet of Satoshi. And I would love to be able to, sort the node out and things like that. Looking at all the stuff that's out there, don't get me wrong, I haven't gone into great depth, but it just seems completely mind-boggling where to start.
Well, part of it, I've been waiting for Lightning to get easy, so I'm excited that the custodial services are as good as they are. And, knock on wood, so far, again, I have $50 in them or $100 in them. I don't have world-ending amounts of money, but they've been fine. But yeah, I think we should do that. We'll have to get the list together of what we have to buy, and then I'll have to order it. And then once it gets here, because I think you really need a dedicated box for the node. I've tried the virtual machine node, and while I was successful, I fought through all the Linux commands and all the things they threw at me, and I got the node running. I was never able to complete it syncing because it's a virtual box, and my computer's busy doing other things, and my computer reboots all the time and does all kinds of other things. So yeah, I think that little having a separate box node is the way to go. So we mainly just have to get down that shopping list of what you need to buy and how bad the damage is going to be.
Maybe put together a video of you actually putting it together as well.
Yeah, I think we need to do an updated one of that. It's super funny. I looked at the most popular World Crypto Network videos or whatever today, and one of them, sure enough, is Chris Ellis putting together a Raspberry Blitz node, 3 years ago, 5 years ago now, something like that. But it's got all the right keywords or something, and it's worked its way up to like 30,000 views. So there's definitely an interest out there for these full nodes, regardless of how new the information is.
I mean, I've noticed there's exchanges coming on board with Lightning Network now as well. So I'm hoping that sort of helps propagate things a bit better, because at the moment it just seems like there's lots of people in the background tinkering with stuff to do with Lightning, like Ben, for example, and there's not much else happening. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of incentive. There's not so much incentive to do the whole full node thing in terms of monetary reward compared to mining. But I think once people understand that off-chain, it's so much cheaper to send, I think it will just click with a lot of people, and they'll go, oh, yeah, okay, so maybe I just need to drop back into on-chain after a week or so.
I think this platform is great for sharing ideas, man. I know you guys are talking about Lightning, but Spaces is just really cool for like sharing ideas. Because I thought about getting into Lightning and playing around with it, but I'm old school Bitcoin, bro. I mean, like I'm still running full core on a computer in my house. I have a block a bit eruptor that has been running for 7 years now. That's just running, and I know I'm not making any money off of it, but it's just running. So new gadgets and tech in the Bitcoin space really kind of shakes me. It's I find it unnerving, but I feel really comfortable listening to this in this space. So I appreciate you guys talking about it. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Just keep going.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just excited for what the Lightning Network potentially could do in the next 2 to 3 years, with the right support from the community.
It's nice to see Fold app is now fully up on Lightning. So if you have that, you can start earning sats that way, and then you can withdraw that to your Lightning wallet.
Isn't that only available in North America though?
It might be, but I think they are planning to go global. You can actually open an anonymous account with them, so I don't know if it's restricted.
Right.
So let me.
I mean, I know you can. Sorry, I was just going to say, I know you can exchange quite easily onto off-chain without, your own node and stuff, with places like Fixed Float maybe, and places like that. But I think it would be helpful if more and more places were able to offer you both Lightning and standard on chain at the same time. You lay down your £20 note or $20 or whatever you want to call it, and you could then, and the teller could then say to you, right, okay, so do you want that standard or Lightning?
That'll be the new. Do you want paper or plastic?
Right.
Maybe.
So you can withdraw from Fold to a Lightning wallet?
Yeah, I haven't done it yet because I haven't earned enough to do it. But
same as Strike, right?
If you have Strike, I can't access Strike from where I live, but
yeah,
I do have Blue Wallet, so that would work.
See, I didn't know that. I've been using Fold for a little over a year now, man, and I never knew that.
Yeah, I'm just logging into it now. So if there's a withdraw button, and then you just it says you need 50,000 sats to withdraw. Keep shopping and stacking those sats. So yeah, wow. I'm nowhere near the withdrawal limit yet.
You would have thought with the fees and everything, the withdrawal limit would be well low, but
I would imagine you could withdraw more frequently if you were withdrawing to a Lightning wallet, though, because the fees are minimal. Or is that an incorrect assumption?
Well, my personal experience of fees with Lightning compared to on-chain is, well, ridiculously different. I mean, it's going to sound crazy. I mean, I think more than 5 days ago, I sent, I don't know, 500 sats to somebody via Lightning, and it cost me 4 sats to send, which for me is, well, nothing.
Right.
I know we're talking like tiny amounts here. I mean, I've got no experience of, sending 1 million sats, via Lightning and how much that would be. But in terms of 1,000 sats, I mean, if you're paying 3, maybe 4 sats for that, then, I mean, that to me is absolutely fine.
Well, I promise to report back when I do hit 50 so I can start my withdrawal.
Sounds like a plan.
So by that point, it's probably going to be $100.
Right. But that was my biggest beef with them, because I've made like 4 or 5 withdrawals from it because I use it frequently. And it's those on-chain fees that eat you up. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I just started leaving it there.
Yeah, I mean, I just talking about mining a second. I mean, I literally, I've got a regular PC just using a standard single graphics card, and I'm mining to, let's say NiceHash. It's not NiceHash, but let's say I'm mining with NiceHash right now, and I'm building up a stack of Bitcoin. But I know the moment I attempt right now, and for probably the next 6 or 7 months, I know the moment I attempt to try and withdraw that, I'm going to pay through the nose on fees because it's on chain. If they offered me a Lightning solution, then I would be absolutely smiling.
I've withdrew from Fold before. They charge you the actual current going rate.
Jeez, that is insane.
But they don't allow you to Lightning withdraw to a Lightning wallet.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that Lightning as a technology is completely infantile compared to standard Bitcoin. But when you got that option there, why not look into trying to use it?
Yep.
Because you've got people out there talking about Bitcoin, like Michael Saylor and stuff. That they're not thinking about it as a currency, but they're also not thinking about it as a medium of exchange either. They're just using it or thinking about it as a store of value. Now, when you go back to the original white paper, peer-to-peer, cash, that's what it says. Now, am I wrong? And now, to me, Lightning helps enable that even more.
And that's exactly what it's for. The stuff I Fold. Small amounts.
Sure. So why would you not want to investigate that and make that or enhance your network or your website with that as an option? It just makes sense.
I think for the exchanges, it's all the things that we're not talking about. It's the under the hood stuff, the way that they'd have to maintain channels and they'd have to maintain liquidity. It's just a lot more complicated to offer Lightning withdrawals than it is to offer Bitcoin withdrawals.
Yeah, but they allow Lightning payments. Like if you're buying something on Fold.
Okay, so well, that's no excuse then. They should allow. Well, no. Again, I don't know. I'm back and forth on that. It seems again, maybe is it simpler to receive it? Don't you need liquidity to receive it as well?
As long as you have a channel with funds in it, you're good, I believe, as far as I know.
Okay, speaking as somebody who's not got a node set up or any of that stuff, and I literally just hold sats in Blue Wallet.
Right.
Whenever I've gone to create an invoice, whenever I've gone to receive funds to that wallet, it's literally just a case of scanning a QR code. I don't have to worry about liquidity or anything of that nature. As an end consumer, or I'm literally just treating that wallet like a standard on-chain wallet.
Right. I think Blue Wallet's taking care of the open channel for,
Probably. But I don't, as an end consumer, I don't really need to know anything about that.
Right. I understand.
My only concern as the end consumer is, does this work? Can I send my money from here to here with minimal fees and get it done instantly? Well, yeah, I can.
Now, right now, the question is, where are you buying your Lightning Satoshis? Because I know in the US, I tell people to use Strike with a K, and you can pretty easily go in there. You link your debit card. You have to do your KYC. No one likes that, but you have to do it anyway.
Right, sure.
And once you do it, you can buy $10. It goes into Strike, and then if you take Strike and you send Strike from there to Fold or from there to Wallet of Satoshi, it becomes the Lightning, and then the Lightning goes out there. And from a consumer perspective, like, I have no idea I'm using Bitcoin or Lightning or any of this stuff. So,
but once you move it off Fold, you need another open channel. Like, you can't. It doesn't just become it becomes Lightning, but if you for someone to use it, they need an open channel.
Yep, for them to have a real wallet. Yeah.
So would
to
it
answer
be
your
safe?
question, Thomas? I was just going to say, to answer your question, Thomas, in Europe, personally, I have never in my life exchanged on-chain to off-chain. I've never bought physically Lightning, Bitcoin with a card, debit card, or anything of that nature. I've only ever physically received it for, like, let's say, I don't know if any of you guys are aware of
marketing.
No, not affiliate marketing, but there's an app out there called S-Miles or Smiles. It pays you Lightning for, like, literally walking. And I've literally just earned a whole bunch of Lightning via that method, and now I'm literally giving it away again. That's what I've actually received. I'm giving it away on Twitter on every couple of days or so.
See, so that sounds like something we need. Have you tried Bitrefill? Bitrefill might have that, but again, it might be too technical, or you might have to have channel liquidity or whatever. What I like about the Strike to Wallet of Satoshi solution is Strike generates it or whatever, and they handle my money. And then I send it over to Wallet Satoshi, and they just hold them. And from there on, it's just like having them in, what's it called? Open Node, which a lot of these other things like Tallycoin, at Tallycoin, it's just linked to Open Node. And Open Node does all the Lightning stuff. And, there's less than $100 in there. It's not a big threat or anything. But
how about BISC? Do they have Lightning?
I don't know. A lot of the legacy things just stuck with Bitcoin because it is an entire new technical stack to add Lightning. It's just a lot harder than people think. And, startups are cheap and lazy and so forth, and they don't have limited resources, So.
Like Jack Mahler's tried to open his channel to everybody he could, and then he got overloaded, from what I understand.
To answer your question,
to make it easy for other users, other services to use it.
I was just going to say, to answer your question about Bitrefill, personally, I've never used it. I don't have an account. No, this is going to sound crazy, but I've actually got no interest in actually opening an account, yet another account with yet another username and yet another password and everything else that could put my information at risk. I'd rather just be able to send and receive as I see fit with minimal fees as quickly as possible.
For smaller amounts, though, basically, right?
Well, to me, like I say, personally, I've never sent a million Satoshi via Lightning. I've no idea how that would work, or even if that's possible.
Right.
But off-chain works for me fantastically, and I cannot encourage it enough.
But isn't like Lightning essentially a custodial service in some way, shape, or form? Like, it's a form of custodial service, right? I mean, the channel is the custodial service.
It seems like if I reach the end of the line and I set up my own node, my node would be the custodian. So there would be a partner there. If they wanted to get rid of my node or whatever, they could, Lightning strike my house, and obviously my node would go away.
But you have to fund it, right?
I have to fund it. I have to, open channels. They have to have liquidity, and they have to link to other channels. But all of this is theoretical. I haven't done it yet myself.
I have an Umbral node. Can I create a Lightning channel?
I believe you can. I believe if you reach the finish line of synchronizing your node, the Umbral node is going to give you these abilities, but we're going to have to figure out from there how to use them. I imagine there's help videos and stuff. I can say I've been looking at, like you guys been saying, you want to do a node. Shout out to BTC Sessions. classic Bitcoin YouTuber. He's been going for a long time.
He's got some good info.
He's got a great video here. It says Umbrel, how to run a Bitcoin node, parts, assembly, and software installation. And he's got a great parts list right here. We're showing it on the YouTube. Check him out, BTC Sessions. So based upon what he's got a 1 terabyte SSD drive. This sounds fun and exciting. A little SSD. Then he's got a little box that the SSD goes into that converts it to USB or whatever. So that sounds good. Then he's got the Raspberry Pi 4 with 8 gigs of RAM. And he's got a 32 gig SSD card, which I guess is, I'd say, what's it called? SD card.
SD card, meaning micro SD. You need you also need something to allow the Raspberry Pi to use a SSD hard drive.
It looks like the kit we've got here, the basic kit has that. I've got these priced out on Amazon, at least in the US. It's $213.92. So,
and if you go with a 2 terabyte hard drive, it's about $320.
Do you think I need a 2 terabyte hard drive?
I did it with a 2 terabyte hard drive just so it would last forever.
Forever is a forever, man. But
I mean, we're 600 gigs now.
What are we at right now?
60% of the way to 1 terabyte.
60% of 1 terabyte.
Hey, whoever was just talking about whoever was just talking about S-Miles, can you send me your referral code, because I just downloaded it and I'm going to go for a long walk.
Nice.
Nice. You should be able to just sign up though now. I think it's open. I don't think it's behind any sort of referral thing. I think you literally can just sign up now for it.
Oh, I did, but it has a referral code option, so I wanted to give you credit.
You get credit.
Oh, nice. Right, okay. I didn't even know that was possible.
Your neighbors will be wondering why you're running around the yard.
I've got to say, I mean, don't get me wrong, the actual reward is significantly lower than what it was back in the beta. But I could go for a nice, it's just another nice regular stroll out in the sunshine when we get that in Britain, which is very rare, for like an hour or so, and I can get myself 80 or 90 sats for that.
When they let you
that's
out.
not bad. Well, yeah. Well, having said that, I can go outside for exercise, in inverted commas. So
I love the idea that I can get paid to walk my dog.
Yeah, sure.
That sounds fun.
That's cool. What's that called again?
S-Miles. It's like a blue.
Yeah, Fold app rewards have gotten significantly lower too recently too. They realized that they were giving away too much.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the YouTube chat. My actual referral chat code.
I also sent you a direct message.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Well, it's in the YouTube chat.
Nice.
What is it? What's your referral code? Because I'm going to check it too.
Cunning Mark, capital C, capital M, 682, apparently. But yeah, try it out. It's free. It's free Lightning Satoshi, and I think they've got a withdrawal limit. You've got to get 1,000, I think, if memory serves correctly. But if you are generally a bit of a walker and you get that done over 3 or 4 days, easy probably.
I finally found a way to get my wife onto Bitcoin. This is going to work. This is finally, after all these years, this is finally work.
There's that other rubbish. There's that other rubbish app. Some garbage coin that you get. Is it Sweat something? I can't remember. I didn't really pay much attention because you weren't receiving Bitcoin. But yeah, I think you can convert that to Bitcoin as well. I don't know how it works or anything, but there's just search Sweat and app and something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's what Thomas is showing on the YouTube channel right now is exactly the app I'm using. And I have been for, I'm going to say the last 8 or 9 months. And the amount of sats I've pulled out of there is
well, amazing, to be honest.
It looks cool. It says you also get rewards for walking, running, biking, and playing games and watching videos. Do you have to like mark the videos, or is it videos in the app,
No,
something like that?
it's just absolute garbage apps you have to watch for like 30 seconds or a minute or something. The games on there are, again, very limited at the moment. There's like a Wheel of Fortune thing where you spin it, and you've got to watch a video first, obviously, but you spin it, you win some sats. There's some chess game on there, which I can't get my head around. I've tried, I cannot get my head around that at all. Again, where you can win some sats. But again, it's very, very, very low amounts, very low amounts. You get the main amount from doing the actual walking. I don't believe you can get sats with running or biking anymore. I know you were able to when they were doing the beta a couple of months ago. I think it's purely just for walking right now. But hey, hopefully, fingers crossed, they may bring it back.
Sounds cool.
If they find a way to connect this Peloton, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. Oh, just as a side note, by the way, if anyone's watching this on YouTube, if you click on my channel, I make liveries in Gran Turismo Sport, Bitcoin liveries. I think Thomas mentioned me a couple of weeks ago when I sent him a lightning tip for your brand new laptop. Yeah, but that's what I do in my part time as well. So every time I'm racing around on Gran Turismo Sport, I'm dressed in Bitcoin.
Haha, nice. That's cool, man. Very cool. All right, I'm transferring.
That's when I get. That's obviously.
I'm transferring from one browser window to the other. The results of BT session suggestions for how to build your own Raspberry Pi Bitcoin node. So, getting closer.
Thomas, how long have you been doing this channel for? Just out of curiosity.
The World Crypto Network started in February 2014, and Mad Bitcoin started in April of 2013.
Wow. Damn. By the way, I don't know if you're doing the whole pulling the audio off the video manually for the podcast, but there are services out there that will do all that and put it into a feed for you. Having done podcasts back in 2006, 2007, 2008 myself, I learned that the hard way.
Are there services that do that? I need a service that does that.
It would save you a whole bunch of time.
Because yeah, I'm still doing that manually, and it's awful. Yeah, send me a DM. Send me a DM with that service or whatever. I'd love to check that out. But because I thought there should be someone out there, because it makes sense. There's lots of people on YouTube that then want it to go out to the podcast, but I just found like more like weird podcast hosting things and all kinds of things I wasn't into. So.
Sure. Hey, Mad Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You know what? I do video, right? And then I use VLC to rip the audio from the video. And then I use Anchor, and it publishes to like 11 or 12 different platforms for me, the audio.
Yeah, I think I have something similar. Wow. I use 4K downloader, and it rips the audio separately. Then I upload the audio to Spreaker, and then Spreaker sends it out to a bunch of podcast services. But I'm trying to get out of that business. I want the computer to just automatically download the MP3, automatically upload the MP3, take the title, and get me out of there.
Instead of DMing you, I'm just going to tell you now. There's a service called Listen Later that will literally take any YouTube channel and convert it into an audio podcast for you.
All right, how much are they going to charge me? When does it get bad?
I can't remember off the top of my head how much it is, but I know I've got an account with them, and that's how I'm still halfway through your previous Twitter. I'm still halfway through your previous Twitter live stream, and I'm still listening to that this way. But I know you can, as a listener with a single RSS feed, you can get it for free. There's no charge, as far as I'm aware. No, sorry, my bad. I think it is $50 a year, but I can have an unlimited amount personally of channels, YouTube channels, and have them as audio podcasts. As a producer of content, I'm not entirely certain. I can't remember. But I don't think it's that dear, to be honest. And it saves you, as a producer, a whole bunch of work and a whole bunch of hassle and time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I've just used their service as a consumer, not as a producer.
I'm seeing lots of things called that. So just send me the link anyway and I'll check it out. But yeah, definitely have that problem. And if other people have that problem, I'd be glad to recommend it too. Because it's just, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's not very difficult. Like, it's just 8 clicks a day, 10 clicks a day. It's just kind of dragging and annoying. And but I know the podcast people really appreciate it. So I definitely try to update the podcast.
Yeah, I do podcasts more than I watch YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. But I guess it's all about how you listen to it. I mean, I love YouTube, so I'm always just like, make a good YouTube video, put some video on there and all that. But no, I feel the same. Something like Morning Joe. I listen to the Morning Joe podcast because it's time shifted and it's really light and it just shows up in the podcast app. So I could see how that would work. I
like doing other things while I was in.
Totally. Man, remember when Amazon didn't have tax? It feels like such a ripoff now that it doesn't have tax. It has tax again.
Apparently, you're supposed to report your Amazon purchases on your tax return, at least in New York. There's something called the use tax, right. But I've never actually done it. I don't know anyone else who's done it.
You're taxing people in other states is what they're doing. Like if you buy something in New Jersey and the seller sells it in New York, they want to tax the guy who bought it, the guy in Jersey.
But it's all self-reported and voluntary, and I don't know if they actually enforce it.
Yeah, it's weird. But states are pushing.
Are your DMs open, Thomas?
Yep, DMs are open.
What app are you running this discussion
on? Right now, we're running this discussion on Twitter Spaces on my phone, and we're also being broadcast through the Rodecaster Pro soundboard via Bluetooth. And after that, I'm putting it out through Zoom, through Restream It, and we are on YouTube, Twitch, what's called Periscope, and Facebook. So we are everywhere.
Wow.
I'm like asking you for permission to speak, and you're posting like 25 different things.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna buy this node thing. It says it'll be here tomorrow. That sounds good, huh?
I used Sessions guide to build my node too. As soon as he made that video, I used his guide basically.
All right, so maybe we'll do the ultimate in laziness. We'll make a video of us watching Sessions guide, making our own node.
I didn't purchase the exact parts. I went on Amazon and found a kit. As long as it was a Raspberry Pi 4 and it was an SSD expansion, and I bought a different case that would hold
now,
the SSD.
What's the deal with the case? Do I even need a case?
No, it just makes it look better.
All right. What if I don't have a case? I'm just gonna stack this stuff somewhere.
Yeah. You just let it hang there,
All right. Well, I'm gonna do that at first. I don't think I'm gonna be buying a case from a second site.
The metal case I bought was $25.
Is it on Amazon or is it separate?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. And if you see the case, there's a list of expansion parts that fit that case specifically, and then you can order the parts list. It's about the same. It's only like $20 more than what his node costs.
I'm getting confused now.
Include the cost of his crypto folks.
It's getting too complicated. I'm looking at all these little cases. There's all different types of cases for different ones and different sized ones. And then this one comes with a kit and a case.
I kind of felt bad not buying it from crypto folks because those guys are, big Bitcoin guys. But I was just trying to get it done as fast as possible.
They have a little one that's a Nintendo case. Oh,
yeah. For emulators.
That's hip. That's pretty.
Yeah, you can do a lot of stuff with that Raspberry Pi.
All right, I'm gonna learn more about Raspberry Pis and the case thing later. I'm gonna have to do that later, because this just makes too much sense. For $200, I get the node thing. I build it. I'll let it sit in the corner and sync itself. Figure out what kind of case it needs. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Bitcoiner, it's definitely worth, just putting one together to experiment with it. So just Umbrel has a lot of plugins and stuff too.
All right, another $200 down the way. Everyone's like, I'll never sell my Bitcoin, blah blah blah, and then it's like, well, what are you gonna do when you want to eat? What are you gonna do when you want to buy a full node so that everyone can build a full node together? And then
according to Michael Saylor, just take a loan out.
I guess I should have taken a loan out before I went on to Amazon.com today.
Borrow $50,000 and live for another year.
That's rich people talk.
I mean, to pay all your bills,
Yeah, I know. Just the access to that much credit, and just the confidence that you'll someday be able to get $50,000 and pay it back.
Well, if you collateralize your Bitcoin, if you're willing to give it custody to BlockFi or something, you just pay the interest. But that's faulty.
I heard people are having trouble with BlockFi logging in and getting money out, so I'd be careful there.
I have some in there. I have a pretty good chunk. I just put it in the other day, just because I wanted to see, I wanted to try it. The returns were tasty, and I'm willing to gamble a little bit.
As long as you know it's gambling.
Yep. Anytime you're giving your Bitcoin to custody to anybody, it's gambling.
Do you guys remember there used to be a lending site called BTC Jam, 2014, and I think I must have lost 3 Bitcoins on that. Yeah. Just making stupid loans to people who never paid it back. It was the biggest scam.
I have a ton of regrets.
Remember that? I used to work there.
No.
What?
Wait, you also used to work at Purse.
Sure.
I remember them. That was the first place you could buy from Amazon. And it was this, I used to work at Amazon, and I mentioned it to someone there, and they're like, that is a name we do not speak of. They hated Purse.
I don't remember Purse.
It's actually still up, but that's awesome that they'd heard of us at all. So, but yeah, I was at Jam. Hopefully after you lost lots of Bitcoin. But yeah, I heard that story many times from many people in different ways, and they didn't exactly blame Jam. It wasn't the platform's problem, but the whole idea was kind of a bad idea in the beginning. And again, when you come to a startup and they tell you the history of the startup, it sounded like the Garden of Eden. When Jam started out, they made anonymous Bitcoin loans. So you could go up there and say, hey, I'm having a hard time. My car broke down. I really need $500. And somebody could give you $500 and you could just leave. And that would be it.
They had reputation scores.
They had reputation, and they had documents, and they'd have your driver's license, and maybe they could publish that, or maybe there'd be a class action lawsuit or something someday to get the $500 back. But yeah, it was just a terrible idea. And then the second level of adding the identities onto it didn't make it that much better, because there's so many ways to steal someone's identity. You could have all these secretaries working in your office, and you're like, hey, it's time to everybody take a picture and hold up your ID. And if you don't do this, you're fired. And you're working in a developing country and it's not a safe environment. I mean, you're going to hold up your ID, and pretty soon your identity is going to be taking out some sweet loans on some kind of website.
Well,
but
I hope that dude in Indonesia is enjoying my 3 Bitcoins from 2014.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely put some loans out on some things that didn't pay me back, and it's always because they wrote that sad story. I've got 3 kids and my car broke down and I need help and my family, and I'll try to pay it back.
Yeah.
But we had
so
some
you get
other.
the DM.
Oh yeah, we had some other classic stories though at Jam. Like there was before my time there, and I was there only a short while. But there was like a kid who came on there and borrowed 30 Bitcoin. They used to have it where you could have your loans priced in Bitcoin. You know, so if the price of Bitcoin goes down, you get a sweet deal. You get to pay back your loan. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, you're doomed for the rest of your life. And this kid was that way. He'd borrowed 30 grand. I don't know how early it was. Probably it was like a couple $100. You know, it wasn't a lot of money. And went out and spent it and probably bought some stuff on Silk Road or whatever kids do with $300. And then he'd come back ready to pay it off on installments. And, you know, now it was 30 Bitcoins. And that was getting worse and worse all the time. And, you know, at least in that case, the kid meant well. He didn't mean to to mess up so badly, but he had. And he'd come back every once in a while and give him a couple $1,000s or something. But it was never going to get back.
Crazy. Like it should be it should be the other way around because you're giving them the collateral, you know, and the price goes up, the company's got more money.
Yeah, it should have been, but who knows? There are a lot of things about that website. Who knows how it should have been? But
there was no collateral though at all.
No, it was all just the loan money was the loan money. So again, I just worked marketing. You know, I just told people to try the website, but you know, and then that didn't work too well, so I was out of there. But it was great to work in San Francisco and to get a start, and it was really cool, real cool people I worked with.
I will forgive you for that transgression for all of the amazing content you've produced since then.
Well, then I went on to Purse, and then I convinced people to spend their Bitcoin again. So more disastrous work for me. But
and they were using it to like scam it was like gift cards that they would get for whatever they would buy them to sell on Amazon. It was I don't remember exactly how it worked. All I know is there definitely were some pretty scammy people involved in that.
It's still going, and they had some trouble lately. They tried to close down, and then I don't know, somebody stepped in and saved them. But basically, you can go to Purse and you can put your order together. Like I just bought that Raspberry Pi thing, so I could put that together, and it would cost like $200. Then I'd say I want a 10% discount. So then they'd give them like $190 or $180, right? So I would give them $180 in Bitcoin and the wish list for the order. Someone else would come along with a gift card from Amazon. They'll buy your order. It'll be sent to you. When you get your stuff, you release the escrow on your Bitcoin.
Right.
So the question is, where are the people getting these gift cards from Amazon? And you know, as an employee or whatever, I don't know. I never knew. I don't know where they come from. But yeah, Amazon seemed to have problems. A lot of the orders would get canceled to where you would see them ship, but they'd never reach the last mile, almost as if Amazon had called the post office and asked them to send that package back. So there was a lot of those problems, but for, you know, sometimes you could get 10%, 20%, even 30% off, stuff like that back in the day.
Right.
So it was a pretty cool website.
There were times when it worked great. But I think that was what it was. There were people who were, I think, buying gift cards to sell, and then they would like charge back the credit card, so Amazon got stiffed in the end. It was something like that.
Amazon. Well, Amazon gift card is essentially just another shit coin. I mean, it really is. Like it's another digital currency, you know. And like if you could buy it, give it to somebody else, and then take it back, you know, like you can pull a lot of
for a while though, Amazon was one of the stronger like gift card shit coins, because you couldn't like resell it. There was something about how they didn't put the amount of money on the gift card, so you couldn't properly check it, so it couldn't really be resold. Then also, like Daniel was saying, I think if you had, I don't know how people work this, but let's say you found somebody's credit card, you would use that found credit card to buy a bunch of Amazon cards, and then you'd want to get rid of them, and then you wouldn't care if you're getting 10% less or 20% less or something like that. But
right, you wouldn't care if they canceled them.
Yeah, and if they cancel, well, you'd care if they cancel them before you get the Bitcoin.
Before you got the Bitcoin, right?
But yeah, it's still running. And then the problem I had is pretty much what you guys are seeing. Like Amazon, you know, they're going to bring me this node tomorrow. Like I'm going to have the problem of how to put together a node tomorrow. Whereas as much as, I love Purse and it was a fun place to work and all that, there's a lot more cancellations. It's a lot more like, I don't know when I'm going to get this Amazon stuff. And that kind of breaks.
Hmm? Like, do they run your credit? Like, you give them your social security when you sign up?
To Purse?
Yeah.
No. No, I don't. Well, I don't know if it would help anything, but yeah, no, I don't know if there's anything like that. I haven't used the site in years, so maybe they've added things. But no, I'm pretty sure people can just come along with their Amazon card numbers, and you use the card number. It's actually Amazon that's taking all the money.
Okay, yeah. So if somebody has a gift card and they got it as a gift and they want to take cash for it or Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Site and sell it
yeah, and that's the proper use of the website. And I think a proper discount of like 5% is cool. Like, I see a lot of people, if you're stuck in a gift card and you want to get out, and these Amazon gift cards, like I said, were especially hard to get out of because you couldn't confirm the amount. All these other gift cards, they have like a website or a phone number. You type the thing in, it says, oh yeah, you got $20 at Red Lobster.
Right.
Amazon didn't have that. So
I always found that funny though. Like, all these corporations have their gift card system. They have their own shitcoin. I mean, that's a digital currency. Like, so when you're checking that box in the IRS, if you ever receive a digital currency, you got an Amazon gift card, you got a digital currency. I mean, what's the difference?
Well, they definitely do have a shitcoin, and they love it. They love their gift cards because lots of people don't spend them.
Right,
so that's just money on the books, and they don't
right.
even count that as debt against the company.
Right.
They just count that as like a success, like you've sold someone a product, and it's not real. So
and then don't they also over time take money off of those cards for non-usage?
If you're not in California, everyone complains about California, too many regulations, but we have laws against that here. But yes, if you're in a lesser state, they can take a percentage off of your card per year, depending on their agreement or their choice of percentage. So yeah, it's bad.
In the UK, most companies that issue gift cards will literally remove the balance after 2 years of non-consecutive use, and they'll just keep the actual balance themselves.
That's ridiculous.
So it looks like California has better laws than the UK.
Woo! California.
I mean, if you're like, it's a regulation. You're essentially, when you buy the gift card, you're supposed to understand that, but they should just have to make that clear. So when somebody buys a gift card, it says you have to use it within 2 years.
They don't even sell those gift cards at a discount. They sell them at face value. It's insane.
Yeah.
Right.
And they do make it clear. It's in the small, really small
back
of the card.
That should be the regulation. Clearly tell your customers so they don't get robbed. Not tell them that they can't, sell it and then cancel it, or buy it, a gift card that expires.
Gift cards are theft.
Right.
Gift cards are definitely theft. But we need Carbon to do it with his accent. But it reminds me of the Hitchhiker's Guide from the Galaxy when they're like, oh, you didn't even check in on the planning commission 2 galaxies away?
Right.
You humans are so lazy.
That Roblox that IPO'd today, that was like $40 billion now it's worth, that company. I mean, their entire business model is gift cards. People use the gift cards to buy stuff in the game, and they're handed out to kids like crazy. They're bought for kids like crazy. Like, that's their entire business.
Yeah, my daughter keeps asking for Robux, and I have to keep saying no because she has no idea how to spend them. So I'll spend $10 and give her like 1,000 Robux, and they'll be gone in 5 seconds. Like, what did you do with it? Oh, I outfitted one of my characters.
It's
like,
the only
gift supposed to last you for a month.
It's robbery. Like, it's the only gift I can give my nephews because they have everything else, So like, I give them Roblox gift cards and they use them.
That is bullish for Roblox.
Right.
Stock, right?
And
they should be putting schools in this thing.
And that's what I was saying when they were public. I was telling people, like, they're the perfect type of company that would put Bitcoin on their balance sheet too, because they're selling gift cards, they're getting cash, and they have a lot of cash, reserve. So like, and it's losing value. So like, they're the perfect type of company that would want to buy some Bitcoin with that money.
A Roblox sounds
I got
great,
lost.
man.
That disconnected.
Well, that kind of, hey guys, joint specialist here. That maybe kind of just dovetails into a little NFT discussion, because the only thing I've seen of value for them, kind of, well, not really, only thing, but within video games and an item. And so, you know, you can create unique skins and, you know, weapons and whatnot within a game.
Copyright it.
That's the only like kind of thing that I am turned on to within that realm.
Well, and that way the use case is digital. If you use the sword in the video game, you got money worth out of the money you spent.
Yeah, and it's a one-of-a-kind item. It reminds me of Ready Player One, and how there's, even though I guess there is, each player can get certain items, you know, but the idea of there being unique items, the thing you could then would trade on a market, because I always thought of Bitcoin itself as like to describe it to people as like points in a really boring video game,
right?
Or, you know, World of Warcraft bucks or something, but like completely
Use
distributed and not able to infinitely mint them and whatever.
But like, I think a company like Roblox is a perfect company that will end up morphing into crypto and Bitcoin in some way, either on their company balance sheet or in, you know, within their system.
What's the price of Bitcoin?
There's only one man who can answer that. And I don't think he's on mic.
I don't want to minimize my Twitter app because every time I get disconnected.
Do you want it in dollars?
56,997.
I think it's hilarious that everybody was hoping that Oracle would buy it and they didn't, and it didn't dump. Like, it pumped from everybody thinking that Oracle was going to buy it, but then when they didn't, it was still up 4 or 5% of the day. But all the shitcoins don't.
Well, hey, what else are they going to do?
Right. I mean, it's just it's crazy Wild West.
Don't get me wrong, and I'm probably going to make certain people maybe think a little bit less of me for saying this. I've been in crypto since the back end of 2016, so I've gone through pump, dump, and now pump again. And during that time, I've held some pretty dire rubbish all the way through the bear market, and it's not gone back up. And that's my own fault for not actually understanding what I was buying. Now, don't get me wrong, I have got some Bitcoin, not a lot, some. It's enough for now. I'm constantly stacking every single day, as you do. But my biggest learning was just buy Bitcoin.
Me too.
Seriously, just to me, it just makes so much more sense. And the amount of people that I've had come up to me because they know, crikey, I will literally talk about Bitcoin till the cows come home to anybody who's willing to listen on a face-to-face basis. But the amount of people that come up to me and say, "Oh, what about this coin? It's so cheap."
Right.
And I'm like, just buy £5 worth of Bitcoin.
It's that unit buy. That's a killer.
I can get loads of this. Yeah, I know you can get loads of that. Don't.
I think we all have the same dilemma. Is all the friends of ours and family we've talked to over the years, like, now's the time to buy Bitcoin, and it's $500 or $1,500, and then when they actually feel like it's time for them, it's too expensive in their minds, and then they're like looking at the Coinbase. And
I want the next
going,
Bitcoin.
what about Algorand? How's that? And I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is. I'm not going to give you a recommendation to buy some random coin I've never researched.
You don't know how to say to them. There's not going to be another Bitcoin.
They just don't get it.
Yeah.
they think of it as like penny stocks.
Right.
Like maybe this one will work out. Maybe that one will work out.
Yeah, it's just a digital currency. Anybody can make their own Bitcoin. It's like,
people in my office were going nuts over the Doge price the other day, and I'm just laughing because, I bought Doge when it was like 0.003 cents. Like, who's buying it at 5 cents?
Yeah, you could see on Twitter, like, some of the older Bitcoiners are on there, and they're still making tweets about Doge every once in a while, just because they want people to pump their bags so they can sell Bitcoin,
It's going to $1, I swear.
Then you guys like, thanks for your money.
Don't get me wrong. In this decentralized finance environment we're currently in, I'll buy some random thing that's in the hottest top 10 on Dex Tools if it means I get more Bitcoin.
Right.
Why wouldn't I?
Right.
That's the end. 10x on ETH this year. Then I'm out.
Well, I did it with BNB. I saw that the BNB, like the BSC chain, I saw that their smart contracts had cheap fees, and while everybody was pumping Ether, so I bought some BNB because I knew it was going to pump because they did the same thing as Ether, but they do it without all the gas fees, and I knew it was going to go crazy. And once it did, I just sold it all for Bitcoin. But people are still using it because it's Ethereum without the gas. They can do all that DeFi crap. So but the idea is like the trophy asset is still Bitcoin, and it's always going to be.
I guess it's just a lack of understanding, and as you said, unit bias, and that for me that is just disappointing because when you think of how many people out there that are going to buy some random coin that's number 150 on CoinMarketCap, or no, let's call it what it is. Let's say number 7,000 on CoinMarketCap, and they're going to be holding that and holding that and holding that and waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen to it.
Right.
When they could have bought Bitcoin and maybe have some gains and actually benefited. And actually benefited and maybe have actually learned something and got some better education out of it.
People who might need help from it the most can't get to wrap their minds around doing it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a friend who today bought their first Bitcoin, and I told them about it well over a year ago. And the first thing he said to me was, "Why didn't you tell me to buy it more?" I'm like, well, I can only.
You gotta respect the hell out of them for buying it at this price, though, because like to me,
sure,
because like they're still buying it and they're getting in, and they understand Bitcoin enough to buy Bitcoin, not a shit coin, and they're buying it at near all-time high prices. So like they believe in it if they're buying it, and they're willing to tolerate some risk that they perceive as risk, but I still respect them for doing it. New coiners at this point who are buying Bitcoin at this for the first time, I think it takes some balls, even if you understand it.
Yeah, sure, but personally I don't think that's the reason why. I think the reason why is he saw what's happened in the last year, right, and has gone, I think I probably ought to buy some then.
FOMO, right? Yeah.
Well, I don't know about FOMO. If he had FOMO, he would have bought it a lot sooner. But I mean, come on, let's call a spade a spade. But he's basically committed to himself now to buy XYZ amount every single day for the next. Right. I think he had a plan 6 months written down and everything else. I'm like, okay, awesome, you do that. The best. I cannot. Anybody out there who's debating getting into Bitcoin for the first time, I cannot encourage what's called averaging. I really can't encourage that anymore because it just takes away the volatility. You buy it, you ignore it, it just sits there. The following day you buy some more, and you buy some more the next day, and you buy some more the next day, and next thing you know, a year and a half, 2 years later, you got a nice stack, and you're sitting pretty, and you're able to actually send that to whoever you want to without any third party telling you no, you can't.
Right. And not buying Bitcoin, dollar cost averaging of Bitcoin. Otherwise you're just wasting your opportunity, and you're taking a gamble, and you're likely going to end up with less Bitcoin in the end.
Yeah, I got literally first-hand experience of that. Not even beginning to joke.
Me too.
Not even beginning to joke. The amount of Bitcoin I had in 2017 compared to today is well. Yeah.
Your story seems like it mirrors mine exactly. I got in around the same time. I had the same regrets. It's like, and I held on to some shit coins when I didn't know better. And it's the exact same story.
Well, and it's tough as a YouTuber as well, because I think also that this is the best strategy, to dollar cost average and then to hodl, and generally to not look at it for 5 years. Think of this more halvening to halvening. You bought during this halvening and you're going to sell during the next halvening, or at least make your decision then. But that's not attractive and cool. All the attractive and cool channels are like, Bitcoin's going up, buy now. Altcoins are going up, buy now. This triangle says this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the worst advice. But then from popularity spake, like, those are the most popular channels. So I'm torn,
Yeah, some of the guys just want to bet. They want to gamble. They don't want to invest, So like, and you're telling them to invest.
Don't get me wrong. If you've got the ability to, leverage trade and you know what you're doing, more power to you. Seriously, you can't do that in the UK now. Let me tell you, the FCA has gone. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, has gone right down to that. Yeah. You're literally not allowed. All you can do is buy spot now in the UK. Unless you've got some sort of VPN and all the other paraphernalia you need. But anyway,
and banks can do it though if they wanted.
Yeah. Oh, sure, of course they can. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll tell you what you can do.
The only thing I think of when I think of somebody new starting out right now is literally rock hard place and them in the middle.
Right. I mean, I just try to explain to them that, like, Bitcoin is going to be the trophy asset. It will remain the trophy asset. If you're going to save money, save it in Bitcoin. And that's all I can say, to try to keep it simple and not give crap advice, and tell them it's,
And it's also like, if everything else out there is a copycat of Bitcoin in some way, if Bitcoin fails, how would any of the other ones survive?
Right. And not only that, the other ones are just Bitcoin's pulling the train, and the more shitcoins that come on, the more it tries to slow the train down. I mean, that's what I see.
Right, but like, can you just imagine the day, like, if there was some horrible 0-day bug in Bitcoin and the whole thing failed and went to zero and lost $1 trillion worth of assets, right? Then, like, who the hell would invest in Link?
Yep. We'd all go crying to the government for our money. Like, you take care of our money now. But nobody would. I mean, I wouldn't, but, like, what I mean? People would just never go near any type of digital currency ever again.
The Link marketing squad is like, that would be our chance. That's when we would top Bitcoin. We'd be number one.
Yeah, we'd be back to trading seashells again.
Yeah. And I do feel like some of the nano people out there, like, they try to portray Bitcoin as having a bug, and that's, like, I find that the most irritating thing of all. Like, when they say, oh, it's you can't do this many transactions per second. Just, like, to me, and you got like 5 guys in your on Twitter feeds, invading Twitter feeds, saying that. It's just like, either you're lying or you don't know what you're talking about.
I always say it's not a bug, it's a feature.
Right. Yeah, that is good.
It doesn't need to do 1,000 transactions per second.
The least important thing about Bitcoin.
Yeah. If you want to do that, use Lightning Network. We've had this discussion.
And we're if something's missing, they'll build it around Bitcoin. You don't need your shitcoin.
I swear, 99% of the technology that's currently out there in a alternative coin eventually that technology will be assimilated into Bitcoin.
Right. They're test nets for Bitcoin, basically.
Let's call them that, yeah. Just test
Isn't
nets.
that where SegWit came from? That was a Litecoin feature that was absorbed into Bitcoin.
Right.
It was
now
added-
Litecoin holders are like, why isn't it pumping? It's like because we took the technology, put it into the Bitcoin, and
now it's on a real chain, buddy.
What's your biggest regret? And don't say not buying more Bitcoin.
Buying a coffee that's now worth $600.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, I had it when Coinbase first came out with their debit card, and I had a bunch of Bitcoin. I would go to the casino sometimes, and I'd take money out of the ATM and Bitcoin, and I'd sell Bitcoin and like play craps and shit like that.
Yeah. Actually,
You know,
Joint Specialist is going to remember this one because he and I worked on some projects together a while back, and I actually feel very good about this. We were feeding the homeless. We were using Fold app, the original Fold app, to request donations from people around the world. And we raised a few $1,000s over the course of a year that we donated not only directly to people in need, buying them coffee and food and shoes and whatnot, but we also donated money to charities. And some of them took it and some of them didn't. And there are paper wallets that we gave away that still have value, that have never been claimed. And they're in the thousands of dollars of value now. And, I just wish I had taken the time to explain it a little better to people or tried to guide them in the right direction or stayed in touch with some of these people who I did give paper wallets to. I know Mad Bitcoins was posting on Twitter the other day about prizes given at the Comic-Con in San Francisco that have never been claimed. And it's really about giving Bitcoin away to people was never a strategy that worked because they didn't know what they had and didn't know how to use it. And then they probably just lost the wallets and they're gone forever.
But it was so
I'll give you
neat.
$100 or I'll give you 0.1 Bitcoin.
You could send it. You could send it from your phone to their phone, and like the magic would happen. And they wouldn't know anything about how it's decentralized and how it uses mining and all these complicated processes. You could have just faked it on a website. You could have just sent a message to some website, changed the graphic, and it would have changed the graphic for all they knew. But I agree with Daniel. For some reason, we had to send them Bitcoin. Like, I'm sure all the early dollars that I sent out are all worth lots of money now. We were talking about.
I had someone come back to me years after I sent them $1 on Change Tip, which is no longer even, functional anymore, and replied to the email I sent her 5 years ago, saying, "Hey, do you still have that $1 you sent me?" And of course, Change Tip would refund the amount back after 30 days if it was unclaimed.
$25. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm happy to give you another $1.
Yeah. Worth of Bitcoin.
Exactly.
You know what my biggest regret was? 2012, when I first heard about Bitcoin, my biggest regret is actually dismissing it as magical internet money and not actually investigating it and understanding what it actually is.
Like I said, your story is the exact same as mine. Like, I looked at it in 2012. I went to the website. I'm like, what is this crap? And he's like, the person who was telling me about it was saying the same thing. Like, buy this, it's life changing. Look at it. And I looked at this, with the Bitcoin.org site was crap. It's like, I'll look at it later.
Right, because there was no marketing behind it. It wasn't like there was a company there to craft the image and come up with a sleek ad campaign for it.
Like cryptography
all the new tokens have. But yeah, we all had that. 2012, I heard about it. 2013, in the beginning of the year, I was following it when the Cyprus bank bail-ins were taking place, and there was all that news about WikiLeaks. And whatever you think about WikiLeaks, they were banned from taking credit cards, and so people were paying them in Bitcoin to keep running. And then it wasn't until it's like Thanksgiving of 2013 when I actually found the Andreas Antonopoulos video from the decentralized conference, or no, it was the Disrupt conference in Athens, and that's the message that finally clicked with me. And then I bought my first one Bitcoin and connected with all these wonderful people here who have helped me keep my sanity through all the ups and downs over the years.
Yeah, me too. You guys, every time I scroll through Twitter and the guys are just like, they're on the same mindset, just and that makes you, it confirms that you're doing right.
Yeah, and really, it's the community that has made Bitcoin into what it is today.
Yeah.
And we would not have a currency if it weren't for all the people that had the faith and kept us all together as a group for 7-8 years while we all had our doubts. We all every time the price tanked. I remember Chris Ellis
even
posted
Michael
a great
Saylor
tweet.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a wonderful tweet by Chris Ellis that has no likes back in 2015 when the price crashed to $200 or $180, and he said something like, "Even if I lose everything, it was worth it all to be here with you."
Right.
And that was the most touching thing I had ever seen in the Bitcoin space, and it's true. To the credit of the people around me, the community I found over those years that helped me keep my laser eyes pointed towards the future.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been a long time. A lot of stuff's happened. It's funny. Daniel was saying that Bitcoin.org didn't have any marketing and it wasn't pretty. When Ethereum came along, a lot of people distrusted it because it had so much marketing, because it was so pretty. The structure of the countdown clock to get the rewards and stuff. It was it was revolutionary in its own way.
The funny part about Ethereum was I didn't even care about the marketing at that point. Bitcoin was making me money. I saw Ethereum pop up on Coinbase, so I just bought it, not even knowing what I was doing. So, that's at that point I didn't care. But I just think the decentralization part is the thing that newbies have to wrap their mind around first.
Yeah, Ethereum was the first real crowd sale that I remember.
Yep.
And I was in the New York City Bitcoin Center in 2014 when Vitalik was there giving the presentation, and that was like, okay, here's a chance to get in on the ground floor.
Right. That's what it always is. I get on the new Bitcoin.
And the presentation he gave made no sense to me. I'm like, okay, world computer and Turing complete, and I'm like, okay, this guy's a lot smarter than me. I'll give him my money.
Right.
And then of course, a year later or whatever, when it launched,
one man,
the Dow got hacked and the price tanked, and we all thought it was going to zero. And I don't even want to tell you how much I sold. Exactly.
That's funny. But that's the allure of, I think, shitcoins is you're putting trust in one person. There's always a person at the middle who you're looking up to and you're investing in.
Yeah, we don't need no leaders here.
Right. We're everybody, and then you see that BCH guy's trashing Michael Saylor. He's not our leader. He's just speaking through. He's just saying the same things we're saying as far as use as a store of value. So we don't worship him. He's just preaching the network. But they think by trashing Michael Saylor that they're hurting Bitcoin. They're not. It's the network.
Those guys are like the Japanese in the caves after World War II. The war is over, and they're still still like BSV is the standard. And then I had that tweet I just read today. It was they have 1.5% of the value of Bitcoin, and at one point you could trade those 1-to-1. Roger was trading those 1-to-1, and now though I don't think he did it, he was claiming at the time that he'd sold all of his Bitcoin and gone into BCH. And
he's probably 98% Bitcoin now.
Sure.
Right.
Well, if anyone learned not to sell it, it would be Roger. I mean, any of these early guys, they have the early pain.
That's hilarious. That's a great comparison. Though the guys running out the Japanese when the war's over, and you're coming out with a knife, and you're just like, "What are you doing?"
Well, they pop up every once in a while. I had that discussion a couple of days ago on the World Crypto Network with those patent guys, and we talked about patents, and that's of course a big issue for Craig Wright, so that involves BSV. So some of the BSV guys started showing up in the chat, and they just say the same old thing. It's like, BSV is the cash, you can send it around. We don't need Lightning Network, it's the original vision.
Actual person.
I know. Yeah, Well, the best, we had a guy in here where we thought he might have been a troll in person. Like sometimes, you know how like you first hear about your first altcoin and you're like, I'm going to go out to the BTC-E troll box and I'm going to pump this altcoin. Right. And, and how are you going to pump it? Well, you're just a normal guy. So you're going to copy and paste this message like every half hour. You're like every 15 minutes, you're like, Litecoin is the best, blah, 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 blah. And like, maybe this will, save your investment. And in the old days it used to, because people were right there on the exchange. They had their money, like they were in the buying decision. And that's when the troll box would hit them like, Litecoin is going to zero. Get out of Litecoin now. And so we had a guy who was like that. He came in here to the audio chat and it's like he had a script and he was like, XRP is the standard.
He's like, you're still doing this?
And we're like, what?
And he kept talking about barbershops.
Yeah, his examples were always barbershops. It was really funny.
Yeah, my haircutter gives me my haircut for free because I recommended Bitcoin to him and he made a shit ton of money. I don't need to make any payments for my barbershop.
God, that reminds me of the Poloniex troll box back in the day. Damn.
Yep. Same with the other one, Arthur's casino. Still up there.
BitMEX.
BitMEX, yeah. They're troll boxes.
Yeah, the idea that they would have a chat room on these exchanges was such a bad idea and so unsafe for all the investors, because you really are vulnerable when you're making your investment decision. When you're up there, I'm going to buy, I'm going to sell, what percentages. Like, it's a very serious, like a personal time. You should be making your own choices. And then there's this box and it's like all caps and he's like, Bitcoin is going to the moon. You should buy it all now. And like, my buddy says NYT is buying this thing at DYG and all these things. And you're like, well, that must be true. And it would affect people's decision making. So but at the same time, you got to think they needed customers. They probably didn't. Who knows if the volume was real? Who knows if the trading was real? Like, you got to get people in there.
It keeps them in the casino.
Oh, it sure does. Yeah, you wish they could have drink service in those chat rooms.
Right. It's the same thing as taking the clocks out of the room.
Yeah. Totally.
I always have drink service in my chat rooms.
Classy. Let's everybody in the Twitter spaces, let's all give us a fist to see if you guys want drink service. Let's see if we can do the fist roll. Some people seem to get it to like fist a bunch of times. I don't know how they do that. There we go. Everybody in the speakers are all with us.
They need to give us a drinks emoji in here.
Yeah, I know. Drinks. Yeah, I'll bet the next version has emojis you can just push on a line.
This is like Twitter's Clubhouse, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is exactly what Clubhouse was like. Okay, well, for Clubhouse, it would also be about the price. It would be like, I'm brand new and I just bought Bitcoin and I bought an NFT, and what's the price? Do you think it'll go up tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I know that?
I like this better than Clubhouse because it's the only place where people actually invite me to speak.
Yeah, see, I think Clubhouse, I'd go crazy if I didn't get invited to speak. And even when you do get invited to speak, the people aren't really like hosts of shows. So they don't have that feeling where it's like, this guy's gone on too long, I need to cut him off, or this guy hasn't talked at all. Yeah, they say that all the time. It's the craziest thing. Let's reset the room. And it's like,
must be a lively discussion if you got to reset the room.
Well, yeah, and reset is it's such strange like computer language or like housekeeping language, where they could just do what they're doing and pretend to be radio people and pretend to be podcasters and just be like, It's 327. The price of Bitcoin is 56,306. And then you just ask someone. Yeah, and you just ask someone a random question. You're like, boom, random question, you. And then now the discussion's been reset. And I did it without saying, let's reset the room, which is just so meta.
I don't I don't know much about Clubhouse. Like, are they not letting people sign up? Like, can anybody just sign up for Clubhouse?
No, you have to be invited in, and you have to be on iPhone. So it's still really limited.
So whoever created it with the idea of we're going to create it for a certain group of people.
I think so.
I think it's more similar to the Gmail or the Facebook rollout, where they're rolling it out through people's social networks. And it also kind of makes sense,
to gain momentum.
Yeah, like when I joined, all the people I invited were pretty much into Bitcoin, right? So I invited people that are going to be good for me to chat with. And if everyone else did that too, then presumably the conversations would grow. But also you get everybody's address books. And when it gives you the thing, it suggests people based upon how many friends they have in the system. So it's very similar to Facebook. Like I saw one of my friends, like he's a really popular guy, and he had 124 friends on Clubhouse. So I was like, I should invite him because he will enjoy this. He has many friends here,
right.
You know, and he'll
like
get value.
Facebook to colleges.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what I think it's like. But yeah, they say they're going to go public, at least on maybe anyone on an iPhone gets to use it. I don't know. They have to write a separate app for Android. That's like
I
their
would never
problem.
buy that stock.
Well, but well, they're in trouble now because Twitter has scooped them here, and this Twitter thing's supposed to roll out to everybody. Facebook already has one of these that's video too, but yeah, Clubhouse has a certain niche. There's a lot of cool people on there. There's a lot of cool rooms, but then there's just a lot of this. The NFTs are huge there. The price chat's huge. The GameStop thing was huge, but none of that seems predictive. If I had to say anything about the Clubhouse rooms, I would say they're all behind. The things they're covering have already happened. They're not saying like buy Bitcoin for the future. You know, they're behind.
Well, in some ways they are, and I don't want to just knock Clubhouse because there are some good things happening there, but it's mostly happening in the Black Bitcoin billionaires rooms.
Yeah.
So I think the people there are just amazing, and what they're doing, just educating people who have never had exposure to this before. It takes time. And, you know, they're just methodically going through, like, here's how you get a Cash App. Here's how you use it. Here's how you custody it. And people need this education because they've never heard of this before. And it's a brand new experience for everyone. So, you know, if we want to onboard the next million people, this is the way to do it.
Yep. You have to communicate back and forth. Like, you can't just give somebody an instruction, they'll fall asleep, you know. So, like, if you can get them interacting with you, that's a big part of being able to get them to understand it. They can ask questions.
Yeah, and they're really focused on the building generational wealth angle, which I think is their niche, and it's to their credit that they're getting a lot of engagement.
It seems like some of those guys are the guys going to be going, like, once they get a shitload of Bitcoin, they'll go and like start another shitcoin startup. Say, hey, look, my new project. You know, like. It's like too tempting for some of these guys. You know, they made a fuckload on Bitcoin. Excuse my language. They made a lot on Bitcoin, and they see an opportunity. Like, all I gotta do is make a startup and put my face on there, and you know, people buy because they look up to me. And like for a lot of guys that are rich, it's tempting. You know, I can make more money easily.
As for footprint, just going back to Twitter. In terms of Twitter space, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what this new feature is going to do for conversation. I mean, the only reason why I'm on here this evening is because Google decided to update the Twitter app for me automatically, you know, this evening.
Me too.
I've been literally searching for this Twitter update, having heard about this update for the last 3 or 4 days, and it's not come. And then all of a sudden it just happened tonight. I'm like, right, I'm doing this. The moment more and more people find out about this as a feature of Twitter, this way of conversing with each other is just going to explode.
It's like having a Bitcoin conference, like at home, because you can talk to other Bitcoiners and you can get them enthused about it. And, you know, so like, to me, it's just, it seems like, you know, you're talking to them on Twitter and replying to their feeds, but that's not the same thing as interacting and actually communicating. So, like, to me, that's what it seems like, the ability to have an actual, you know, crypto meetup online.
There's also,
I also think
it's also
Bitcoin
neat
meetup.
because it's Twitter, and we've all been on Twitter for so long, and we have all these existing communications and things. Like, I know Dan here, I've retweeted like hundreds of his political things, and we always agree on political stuff. We're always favoriting, but we've never spoke. And there's no reason, you know, it seems fine. But, you know, this thing makes it so easy to speak. And there's something, I mean, I like video. I'm big into video. But there's also something nice about just voice. You do get a lot of the tone of voice and a lot of what the person's trying to say to you, as opposed to text, where like text, I mean, it's very hard to read. I mean, I try to be a writer and stuff, but a lot of people aren't good readers as well.
And with Twitter, sometimes the algos, they won't see certain things because of the algorithms. So like, somebody will have a good message and it won't get any likes and it won't get circulated because they don't have a ton of followers, or the algo doesn't like them for some reason, and it's not appearing on a lot of even the people who follow them feed. So like, there's actual direct communication.
I also think that when it comes down to what you do, Thomas, in terms of World Crypto Network, personally, as I subscribe to countless YouTube channels, I never actually watch YouTube. I only ever listen. And for me, this is almost like having a live radio show.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? With live interaction. And for me, that's a huge thing for what you actually do. In terms of keeping the conversation going, in terms of trying to keep it fresh, in terms of trying to find and understand the new angles and the new technology that comes up, like Lightning,
I remember before Elon Musk bought Bitcoin, there was somebody posted a video from Clubhouse of him talking about Bitcoin, how he's enthused about it, and like that was right before he bought Bitcoin, and like that circulated like crazy. Like, so if he didn't have Clubhouse or the opportunity to speak to other people like that, it wouldn't have got circulated.
Yeah, I agree, Carbon. I think there's an incredible opportunity here, and I felt that on Clubhouse too, to roll out basically what I'd been working on before, where it's like Bitcoin Talk Radio, where we have a couple of topics each day, and we say, hey, the news is this, and then people call in. They're like, I'm Joe from here, and I think that's good, and I'm Fred from there, and I think that's bad. And you just kind of lay back, you let them talk. It's like an open thing. Everybody so far has been really polite and really cool. Like I haven't had to intermediate any fights. I think eventually the moderation features on this will get better, but I was excited about that on Clubhouse. And then I found that I couldn't really spark the discussions there because I don't have a big following on Clubhouse because I'm brand new. But now they opened up the feature here on Twitter. And the main problem I have now is that it's an embarrassment of riches. And I don't know what to do with it. And like I did like 9 hours of talk radio one day, and then I did 7 hours the next way. And then I was like, I got to take a day off and try to like do all my normal things, like try to fix the thumbnails and try to do my house maintenance and all that. And then I got to figure out how to use this because I don't even know how to integrate this superpower. At one point, I'm like, I'm the only one with spaces. I must keep the room open all times. Blah blah blah. I must, make the communication happen.
You're the first one I found.
But then I get these files from YouTube. I download them. I can't even convert them to a podcast because they're too big, because they're 8 hours long. And then when they're on YouTube, nobody's going to click on it because it says it's an 8 hour long video. And editing it's a nightmare, and cutting it up, all that's like just a time nightmare. But I do think we have tons of potential here. As far as World Crypto Network, what we're looking for, or what we see as a way to utilize this, is we're looking for people to be hosts. And a host is a person who has their own opinions and is good at talking, and who's kind of level-headed, who like kicks people out if they're out of control and just doesn't let the chat get out of control. And
doesn't get emotional about it, right?
Yeah, and mainly responsible people who'd want to show up for like an hour. And then once we get people that want to show up for each hour, I can set up this space. And then once we get the shared hosting ability, right now we're a little crippled by Twitter's beta product here. I can't.
A new host can take over.
Exactly.
You can't hand off the hosting to someone else yet.
I can't hand off the hosting yet, but as soon as we get that, I mean, right now we can do it in a honor system way where we just hope that it doesn't get out of control or whatever. But even then, I have to come back every hour or whatever to add the new person.
Moderator controls over.
I can't. But they can do that on Clubhouse. They have the moderator, and you can pass it around. But generally, we're looking for tons of new hosts. I don't even know how to gather them. I need to build a Google form or something, have people sign up with what hour they want, and try to patch out a schedule. Because my original plan for World Crypto Network was pretty straightforward. I was like, well, I've seen Anchorman 2. I just watched it recently, and they made their own CNN, and they made their own Fox News, and they did 24-hour cable news. And it's like, you're insane. How could you do that? And I was like, we should do that for Bitcoin.
That is a great idea. It is.
Yeah. So, I mean, this right here, if we can use this tool plus all this other stuff I have running in the background, because I don't like ephemeral audio. I don't like the way it just goes away. I have lots of people who are sleeping right now, and they might want to check this out. And then the same way, there's lots of people that are like, you know, going on a bike ride or going on something where they might want to listen to one of these big YouTubes, or if I can get them converted to podcast. But so yeah, we're interested in generating that. And, you know, we don't make any money. We're not a good business. We're not good at making money. So we're not going to be able to pay anybody. But you can always promote your own thing, is what I was always telling
Thomas.
people. Yeah.
You can take
I just had a thought. Mate.
Uh-huh.
Once you've got all these shows together, in terms of once you've got all these live streams and everything else done, you've converted it to audio and all that.
Mm-hmm.
How about, I don't know if it's still a thing, it might not be in North America, but how about getting in touch with Sirius and getting it syndicated?
That would be cool. That would be.
Then you got to have money. Then you got to make money on it, because then you got to do ads.
They could do. I mean I'm not a guy. I'm not opposed to ads. I just don't have time to do it, and I'm not good at it. Other people are good at like selling ads. So
right. Yeah, but then you'll end up having to do live reads for skin cream.
Right.
Oh,
and so like
we'd be on silent radio.
If you want to keep it so it just helps the Bitcoin community and there's no agenda, profit driven look, you do like a value for value model where people can, you know, they can donate some money to the overall goal, and, you know, and contribute to it if they want, you know, and then,
yeah, just like an operating budget. You know, I don't think any of us would ask to get paid.
And then, you know,
I would happily host an hour here and there.
Right, you just give them thanks, and that's it. You call them a producer of the show, kind of like that No Agenda podcast does. You know, and you just call them a producer of the show, and then you say thank you, and you know, and it helps you operate and get the word out and market, and you know, and it gives you resources.
Hey, listen, in this giant pause in the conversation, I'm going to wave goodnight because it's like 9 on midnight here, and I need to literally get to work in the morning. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Thomas, for hosting us this evening, and thank you everywhere else, you know, this is all going out to, for joining us and listening in. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to say goodnight, and I shall catch the rest of this conversation when you upload it, Thomas.
Good night. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Take care.
That's a pretty good idea, though. I like that Bitcoin radio station type idea. You know, self-hosted by the community. That's the type of stuff that gets people listening and understanding it.
Well, we're doing it right now. We don't have agendas or shows yet. We have 20 people watching us on YouTube, so give us a thumbs up. Say hello in the chat. We have hardly anyone watching us on the other platforms, but we got about 30 people in the room here. If you want to speak, go ahead and volunteer in the room. I can go through and try to add everybody, but it also says requested sometimes when people do want to speak. So if you do want to speak, just come up. We need see, Dan, part of the thing about having shows is it would help us expand this out, where it would be like, this would be like Bitcoin newbie hour, where it would be like everyone,
ask questions.
Yeah, like tell your stories, or the next one would be questions, or the next one would be about lightning, or the next one would be like, tell us about the old days and stuff like that. So
every Bitcoiner wants to help and answer questions.
Yeah, they just need a place to do it. And actually, again, like Dan said, I second that the Black Bitcoin billionaires are doing a great job of this. I wouldn't be trying to compete with them or anything like that. They're awesome. And
the beautiful thing is there is no competition. You know, we're all working towards the same goal. We all want everyone that we know and we love and people we've never met to be part of this worldwide experience that's happening right now. And we should be happy that everyone else is doing their own thing.
That Bitcoin Black America guy that got on the mainstream news a bunch of times, that was awesome.
Oh yeah, that guy's cool. Yeah, he's one of the followers and stuff. He's with that group too.
That guy's great.
There's a cool comment in the YouTube chat. I want to read it out. Crypto Player says, I miss the truck driver Mustafa. He was so cool back in 2018, 2019. He'd always call when he was on the road. I remember him too. I was doing the Bitcoin talk show pretty heavy, and I was taking phone calls and Skype calls before Twitter and Clubhouse technology was invented.
Oh, so you talked about Bitcoin on terrestrial radio?
No, I did this on YouTube. And so I would take phone, but still, like, I figured out a way to make it happen. And Mustafa would always call in. He was obviously like a young guy. He was really excited. He was a truck driver. He'd listen to all this Bitcoin stuff when he's on the road. And he would say amazing stories about how he would go to a truck stop. And again, not very liberal, open-minded people at a truck stop. They're not really looking for your to share them information.
Leave me alone.
Yeah. And he would try to share them. Bitcoin. He would tell them about Bitcoin and how exciting it was. And I just thought it was the greatest thing that, he would try extra hard as a kid to do that. And
that's awesome.
It's cool stuff. So Mustafa, if you're out there, get on the Twitter Spaces and come contact us.
What's your Twitter handle?
Yeah. What's your handle, buddy? But he also says Crypto Player remembers that, I used to pin on the map the location for where people called. So it was really cool. I had like a Google Earth, and you could see all the calls. And it was pretty cool. We eventually would get calls from all over the world just talking about Bitcoin.
So they tell you where they're from and you pin the map.
Yeah, just like old-timey radio. Yeah. So let's do it right. Oh, I need to see, the part of it is right here. It says your name's Popsicle, so that's always going to confuse me. But I need to get a piece of paper. If I was doing this for real, if I wasn't just goofing around here, I would get a piece of paper and write down, okay, Popsicle is Fred from Boston. And then I would start calling you Fred from Boston, and I'd know, you're from Boston, so I have a little background there, Red Sox or some kind of thing, But super fun. And again, if the people want to be anonymous and want to say I'm Jed from Manitoba or whatever, I'll pretend you're from Canada. Like, I don't care.
You make them a fake country, Tanzania or something.
Yeah, I'm not going to be calling people. And I'm Fred from the Earth. And then we'd have real fun, because they'd be like, oh, it's Fred from Earth. Whoa, that's a big planet. Fred
from Guantanamo Bay.
But yeah, I mean, I think we do that here too as well, and we just need to kind of, get people to host, cut up the day into hours, quantify that people want to spend their hour hanging out on Twitter Spaces, being preserved on YouTube.
When you were doing it on YouTube, how many hours a day were you spending doing it?
I forget. It's different at different times. I mean, usually I did the Wednesday talk show, like 9 to 12 or 9 to 11, kind of like a morning talk show thing. And then at one point I was doing at least 5 days a week talk shows. And then at another
you do
point,
like 2 hours a day at one point.
Yeah, I was doing another, like, one day I was doing 7 days a week. I was doing seven days or whatever, seven days a week. That was a lot.
If you had converted to podcast, I would have seen it already.
Oh, they're podcasts too. It's a podcast.
They are?
Yeah. World Crypto Network audio podcast. But there's
and then you also have the Bitcoin group.
Yeah. You got to do that on Friday. You got to sack up for the Friday show. But and I love the Bitcoin group. I was going back through trying to fix up my spreadsheet of guests to the Bitcoin group. It was pretty fun, man. It was getting nostalgic though. I was getting sad. I was like, all the people I don't see anymore. I was like, oh, I miss that guy. I miss that guy. Like
they're all going to converge in Miami in June.
Well, they all hate me, but I feel fondly for them. So yeah, I don't hate anybody. Well, maybe some people, but even then, I'm trying to get over that. It's better to just be friends with everyone. But yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to the Miami Disease Festival. I'm not a vaccinated few yet, so
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's safe for them either. So yeah, we're not supposed to.
Hey guys, may I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts about all the developments in the Lightning Network at the moment. Do you think that in the coming months or maybe years, the narrative around Bitcoin might shift from a store of value to medium of exchange?
We had this discussion earlier.
Well, I think we're really establishing store of value. Like, it's getting really strong. People are starting to, the digital gold thing, that used to be crazy cypherpunks and insane libertarians. Digital gold? Oh, what are you talking about? And now it's big bankers and fancy newsletters, and it's like they've discovered it, like they've unearthed it. Like, we've been talking about it for like 8 years or something, but they're like, it's digital gold all of a sudden, and I think that again, to their mind, is like gold rush. so you should rush to get some, and mania, and then once we're a mania, then we're tulip mania again. So yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pascal.
I kind of think though, like with the store of value and the people looking at the price, like you get more people in, then as the price will stabilize at some point, once the network effect takes full effect, medium of exchange side rails like Lightning will be take shape more, like all over the place. That's the way I see it.
I think it's important to remember that Bitcoin is only 12 years old.
Still in price discovery.
And right, and as far as the the general public is concerned, it's 1 year old or 5 years old. Like people don't really have the time reference that we have, having been in this for the amount of time we have. There are still people who I talk to who think that 2017 was the all-time high.
Yeah.
And so we're ways away from the medium of exchange narrative. I think that's happening slowly. We think we all tried using it as a medium of exchange for many reasons it didn't work out for us.
But you can still do so if you want to. Nothing's preventing anybody from doing it.
But it's not something that I think is it's necessary right now.
Right.
I think we still have 5 to 10 more years to go before we really see that taking off.
Well, but Dan, you got to tell them about Bitcoin time. Do they know? They might be too new to Bitcoin to know. Now that you've become a Bitcoiner, you are experiencing accelerated time. Everything will start happening. Like, remember 6 months ago?
Public service announcement.
I'm pretty sure 6 months ago the price of Bitcoin was like 10 grand, right? That's insane, right? Like last year the price was probably 3 grand. Like all these things will start happening. All these events will start happening. Everything seems really intense. And like you'll look back on it and like I've done things, I've been in it now, I don't know, 5 years, 8 years, something like that. And the things I did 5 years ago feel like ancient history. Like like we were cavemen and we had no idea what was going on and all the things we said and all that. And get ready. Because it's going to happen to all of you. And you're all going to be like, oh man, I've been in Bitcoin so long. And I'll be like, when'd you get in? And they're like, 6 months ago. And it's been a crazy 6 months. I lost my stack 3 times. Like all these kind of things, because it happens to everyone, the acceleration.
And like 10 years from now, we could be saying the same thing. Like, what were we talking about in that chat? Like
undoubtedly. And you're going to be so early. That's the horrible thing. Everyone's like, somebody was saying their friend was going to go buy altcoins or whatever. And it's like, already I have that horror where it's like, I could work for the rest of my life and never get back to the number of Bitcoins I had. Not to say anything about the potential if I had just sold everything I owned and bought Bitcoin, right? Which seems really simple now. But in reality, like selling everything you own, like not owning anything.
You still don't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, it's still very difficult. It's very hard.
There's an initiation process for it.
That's right. You got to go through. It's like hazing. Like a mental thing has to happen to you where like everybody here.
You mean like suffer a bear market? Is that what you're saying? Like,
yes, exactly.
You have to go through I kind of agree, but like I don't think the bear markets will be as severe as what we dealt with.
I love everybody saying that, and it sucks because I don't want to root against anybody, and I have money in this too, of course.
It's the sweet children of Bitcoin right now.
It makes me want it to be worse, though. It makes me want it to be worse. Like I can't say it.
Especially when Dan Held speaks about his super cycle. I mean, it's tough not to believe that.
Right, but that's our emotions too.
Exactly.
We want you to deal with what we went through too.
Yeah.
But it's irrelevant.
And it's gonna go up. We're gonna see a high, and then it's gonna come back 80-90%.
But what they're kind of talking about is earning your stripes.
Yeah, that 80-90% pullback. That's you get 2 of those under your belt.
Right.
I think generations in Bitcoin can be determined by how many halvings you've been through.
Right.
Because really that's where the peaks are anyway. So.
And they get that crazy look in their eye, that 100-yard stare.
What am I doing? Yeah. I gotta get my tracer out.
There was actually someone in my old raised to work in my old office who just walked over by my desk one day and said, "I'm sorry to hear about Bitcoin."
Yeah.
Of course I was, and I was buying more that day.
Yep.
Yeah, because the price crashed to $40,000. Is that what it was?
Yeah, 2018 when you're talking about when it crashed from
19,000 to $4,000.
$4,000. Yeah. I mean,
I was a casualty of that.
But you were a casualty. Everybody was there. Like
Yeah.
If you didn't sell any, you're a Bitcoin believer. There's no question about it.
Well, that's the initiation process that I was speaking about before.
Right. But I don't think we're gonna have. I think we'll have severe dips where we'll see 30%, 40%, stuff like that. But I don't think we'll ever. I don't, like I said, I don't want to jinx it either. But like, I have a hard time seeing.
Well, but again, you got to think more like large negative events. And it used to be really easy. I used to look out there and I would say, well, this Silk Road thing's going to get shut down. I said, well, this Mt. Gox thing doesn't seem to be programmed very well. Something bad's going to happen there. And there's certain like events where you're like, oh, the
network on it.
Like right now, like large scale, like black swan negative events that you can see. And you're like, that might happen. Like China bans Bitcoin. We're always on the lookout for that, but they've done it to us so many times that we're bored
India
with that.
India did it, and it didn't even make a ripple.
Because everybody's done it, and we're immune to it.
Yeah, we're immune to that one now. And also, India wasn't in. Like you have to be into it to like have the effect of the ban really hurt anybody. Like China was heavily in, so it would hurt. Like the Mongolian mining story.
Prices. Right.
Speaking of FUD, I got some great anti-FUD. I was thinking of all this environmental stuff that people are saying about the mining, and I thought, wow, it's amazing how much electricity all these electric cars are using.
Right.
We should ban electric cars.
Same with Roblox today.
That's essentially what they're saying.
Yeah, like same with Roblox. The IPO, $40 billion today. How much energy does that use?
Well, and the whole point is that like with electric cars, it's a better alternative than the one we already have.
Yeah,
and so to say, gee, this thing uses a ton of energy, well, maybe it's a better solution than the one we have already. Maybe it will use less energy than the solution that we already have.
And it comes with the preconditions that somebody gets to decide what energy gets used on. You don't get to use energy.
Right, and what that's doing is it's saying, well, this isn't a legitimate use of electricity,
right?
But keeping all the lights on in every bank in the world is,
right.
and driving around giant trucks full of dollar bills and gold bars. That's
the Wall Street
valid
casino is okay. Yep.
I do think Dan's right. That's a great way to look at it. Imagine if Tesla was 1,000 times more successful. Well, there'd be 1,000 times more electric cars, and they'd be using 1,000 times more electricity. My God, Tesla's going to use all of our energy.
Right.
Right.
And
what
Bitcoin
a horror for the environment.
Doesn't even care how much energy you use. It's just a competition. So, it doesn't. It uses what's available. But it allows people to turn excess energy into money. I think the best part about the energy thing is it allows remote third world places that aren't geographically strong, don't have a ton of natural resources. They live in poor countries. They can turn what any natural resource energy source they have into money and build an economy around it. To me, that's world changing.
I was just listening to Benny, I can't remember his name, but anyway, his podcast, and he had somebody that was
BTC Sessions.
Actually, BTC Sessions. Thank you.
Yeah, we just talked about his fantastic Raspberry Node tutorial thing. So I want to plug him again. So
yeah, so this was an interview. Well, I guess they were having a group talk, and one of the guys runs a business where he talks to energy companies about gas flaring and things like that. And he said, it used to be like I really had to work myself. I had to work my way in to convince these people that it's something they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And now they are calling me.
Yeah.
And my schedule is full. So that to me was just like, okay, these people who are essentially just wasting energy right now are going to start making money.
They don't know how to use the excess energy they have, and they can't monetize it. So it's just going to get wasted. So Bitcoin gives them the quick opportunity to do that.
Well, I am also going to take this lull in the conversation to bid you all farewell. I have to go make dinner, but I will see you all around.
See you, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, Dan. Good stuff.
Good night.
Hey, have we talked about Andrew Yang tonight? I had to step away for a while.
Not yet. Did he do anything? I'm working on this Twitter host spaces sign up document.
No, I guess what I was thinking about is I think I'm a fan of Andrew Yang, so I've been paying attention to his mayoral race, and I think he's winning right now. And I think
that's actually pretty easy to believe.
Yeah, and I think if he wins, I think he'll fulfill his promise of making New York a center for crypto. And I think that's incredibly
Anybody
bullish.
willing to do that is a good thing. I'm not a huge Andrew Yang fan, but like if he's willing to make Bitcoin, to build around Bitcoin, that's a good thing. I don't care what political party you're in. That helps people.
Well, and I think too, from what I've seen of him, he's willing to admit when he's wrong. He just wants to do whatever works. And if he goes down one road and he's like, that doesn't look so good, I guarantee you he just switched to another one. He doesn't have any ego involved in it. But yeah, I just thought, boy,
I think he's genuine. Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm an Austrian economics guy.
Yeah. It's balancing all things though, right?
But I think he's a good person. Like I think he's a better person to build a body. I'll put it that way.
Right.
I think the guy in Miami's good. I think Suarez is a big help to Bitcoin. He's a Republican, but he's a moderate Republican. He understands Bitcoin's value. I think you're going to see more politicians who are embracing it than ever before. By 2020, in the next midterm elections, I think you're going to see new guys pop up too that are pro Bitcoin. I don't know. Did I get cut off?
No, still here. Almost got the form together. Working on sharing it to the chat. Better late than never.
So what are you guys telling friends nowadays that say, should I buy Bitcoin? I had a friend of mine. He said, well, I was thinking about buying, but
dollar cost average. Yes, dollar cost.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's what I tell them.
And they get bored, like you're trying to sell them an index fund.
I know, right? It's just like, man, come on, I can't tell you. He's like, well, okay, if I dollar cost average, how much should I put in every week?
Whatever you can afford to lose. That's all I can say. I mean, you got to say it that way. You don't want to say it that way, but you don't want to give somebody financial advice, and if they suffer a little bit of a bear market and they can't deal with it, you don't know what their situation is.
Yeah.
Well, and it is all about the loss. Like I know my friends, they were putting like at one point, I don't know, not to out them or anything, but they were putting like $100 a month in, and that was too much for them. Right, that was making them too stressed out about the thing. They were watching it too much. It was threatening their ability to pay the food or whatever. That's too much. Do $10 a month. Yep. Do $20. Do something where, like the guy said, if you lost it, you'd be like, oh, that's okay. Like I lose that, buying coffee or drink sometimes,
Right. Yeah, it's a risk tolerance based on your own situation. Don't take food off your kid's table. Don't do any of that. Like that's.
But that said,
I don't know.
They totally won't listen to you. They're just going to go gangbusters in with all their money. And like the other guy said, they're going to go to Coinbase.
Bet on the basketball
they're going to come back with some random thing because they got more tokens. And I don't know. There's no way to win here. I think it's a monkey's paw.
They just got to learn the hard way.
They're going to say, hey, what do you think about IOTA?
Right. What do you think about Dogecoin?
Every time.
Elon Musk is tweeting about Dogecoin.
And a friend of mine's been really nailing it. He's like, yeah, if you tell them about it and it goes up, they don't even thank you because you told them it would go up. Of course it went up. If you tell them about it and it goes down, they start blaming you and they're all mad that they lost their money. Like you don't win anything. So
when I was at 33K, I told my one buddy, I was telling him all the stuff that was happening, and he was like, and then he texted me back, like after a phone conversation, he said, just bought one Bitcoin. If it goes down, I'm blaming you. Just kidding, but I'm like, yeah, I know that's exactly what you're
doing. I told a friend of mine who he and I trade stock tips and stuff like that, and I told him at 8,100. I said, I got to let you know, man. I think it's a pretty good bet at this point. If you want to just limp in with like $500, $1,000, something like that,
he was like, all right. And I think he's mad at me now because he actually didn't buy.
Right, he resents you for it. Yep,
Right.
he resents you for it. Yep.
This is
Like,
no win.
yeah, like you can either be right or you can be popular. Like it's the way it is.
Ooh, lightning strike here. Ooh, thunder. Ooh.
The other thing, a bunch of guys I played golf with when Amazon was at 250 and before AWS took off, I was telling people like Amazon's a good buy at 250, and they didn't buy, and Amazon started running, and then the same guys I was telling to buy Bitcoin, they still weren't doing it. So it was like, these guys are never gonna listen to me anyway, so I'm just gonna wait for somebody. If they're gonna ask me, I'll tell them.
That's part of it too, is that, I've got like a hodl hat, I've got Bitcoin socks, I've got a pin that I wear. Like,
you're walking unsolicited advice.
Exactly. I have a shirt that says, my wife got it for me, that says danger at risk of spontaneously talking about Bitcoin.
Right. It's like that meme with the guy in the corner. They don't know that I have Bitcoin.
So yeah, it's not like people couldn't come to me if they go, hey, I heard about this Bitcoin thing and it seems interesting. I'd be like, oh, how much time do you have?
You're right.
Well, and they never do either when it's down.
They come to you
never do.
You give them lots of money. Even when you give them money, you're like, hey, here's $10 in Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And your goal, like you said this yesterday, Dan, I think, but you said your goal is that they'll come back to you and ask about how to get more. And they'll be like, wow, that became $20. Can I do that with more of my money? Instead, they're like, no, that was like a fluke. Like that will never happen again. Like that was
I sold it all.
Or, actually it's funny. I told a friend of mine today, when he asked me how much to put in, I was like, dollar cost average, blah, blah, blah. I said, I prefer round numbers. So $10, $50, just some kind of round number, because that's mentally what I prefer. And I said, what happens is that especially when you DCA,
see the value.
You pay attention a lot at first. You watch the price all the time. You're like, oh, obviously only you shouldn't do it if it's too much, like Tom said. But then you forget about it.
Become a better
saver. You're only doing like $10 a week or something like that, and you're just like, well, okay, that was fun, but whatever. And you put the app down, and you just keep stacking, and eventually you come back and you look at it and you go, whoa, that's like $1,000. Holy crap. And that's regardless of the price going up or down. I mean, obviously the number go up technology always helps, but even if it just goes sideways,
right?
I
you're
think
a better saver.
That's the thing, is that it inspires a culture and mentality of saving in general.
Hard money wants to be saved.
Yes, and it teaches you to be a saver. I think that's the thing. Is that
I was a terrible saver before Bitcoin.
Yeah, I actually I've started counting all of my Bitcoin in Satoshis at this point.
That's
because one, it's a lot more fun, but two, because I sent a Lightning transaction today, and I noticed it was 27,000 Satoshis.
Right.
And I'm starting to pay attention to Satoshis and what the decimal place looks like when I glance at it, and the math on that, and going, okay, that 3 in, that's about this number, and so my brain is getting fixed.
It makes you see how much U.S. dollar is getting devalued in relation to Bitcoin.
I had a friend of mine argue with me that there's no inflation, at the inflation rate is 2%.
You're never going to give us anything.
That is insane, especially. But I was listening to some podcast where somebody said if you factor in the natural deflation of technology, like the improvements in the cars and things like that, like
the free market aspect.
Yeah, I mean, making a Big Mac today has to cost 10% of what it cost in the 70s or 80s.
Well, I mean, the inflation is seen in big products. You see inflation in college tuition. You see inflation in housing prices. Minor, smaller goods, you'll see it less. You'll feel it less. people won't notice it. Like to me, that's the big part of inflation.
I guess my thing is that if, like I say, if you take automation and those kind of productivity gains, it seems to me like a Big Mac should cost you 50 cents at the most, you know?
Right. Absolutely. That's the idea of automation. It should drive prices down, you know, but if
it never does.
If you're in a printing money economy, it does the opposite. It drives jobs away and it makes things more expensive and it makes us less productive. So like that's kind of the big part about Andrew Yang that I don't love. I think you have to get away from some of the spending before you start talking about things like modern monetary theory. Like you can't spend, you know, 100 billion on useless crap.
So my Yang somewhat conspiracy theory is that he realizes that there has to be a transition, right? Like the bubble that is being created by the inflation of the U.S. dollar,
right?
It's going to pop sooner or later.
Yep.
And if right before it pops, you give a bunch of money to a bunch of poor people.
At the Federal Reserve.
So if you're going to print it anyway,
right? There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. That's true. Places can inflate for almost ever as long as they allow them to do it.
Right. I think the thing about these checks that people are getting that makes me the most crazy is if you look at I think I did the math on it.
5,900 it should be.
I think it's 60% of the cash is going to people other than U.S. citizens.
Not just U.S. citizens, it's going to stupid things too, like discussions. You know, 50 billion here for a discussion.
Right. And my feeling would be if you're going to print $2.1 billion, give every damn dime to the citizens of just like pump it into the economy.
Give it to the citizens and give it to the people who need it the most.
And they vote with their dollars, right?
This is an impressive bill compared to the Trump tax cut. They say that this bill could reduce poverty in the United States by 30%. So it's pretty impressive.
You get me off with the Trump tax cuts because, like, the comparison to me is beyond ridiculous. Like Trump tax cuts,
the size,
$100 billion.
It's the only other bill of similar size.
What's that? What was that?
In the size of the bill, the Trump tax cut is the closest bill in similar size of amount.
No, his
of money
economic
spent.
stimulus was. That's the big one. That's where Trump sucks, in my opinion. I mean,
the Trump stimulus, yeah.
Right. The Trump stimulus was crap. You know, I don't think his tax cuts were bad. I don't think the tax cuts were, it's $100 billion a year, you know, and sometimes that could, lead to growth. So like when you start talking $2 trillion instantly,
but the Trump tax cuts went to the rich people just in the trickle down theories, and
that's because you're in California and you have high state taxes.
All the reports on trickle down is that it doesn't work. Long, serious, scholarly 3-decade reports that it doesn't work. So yes, I think this bill is a lot better than that one.
If you give the tax cuts to the richest and most wealthy, it's not going to trickle down per se. But like when you reduce taxes for the people who are producing, who are working, making anywhere from 50 grand to 150 grand. It incentivizes them to work. It spurs economic production. And I mean, I've looked at the numbers as far as the Trump tax cuts. Like most of them went to middle class. I mean, and it hurt some people in high tax states because it got rid of the SALT deductions. But like as far as the how it who benefited. Sure, some of the corporations benefit who took buybacks. That's not really that great. But, most Americans who work and feed their family, they paid less taxes.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the Trump tax cuts for the middle class expire. So they paid less taxes for a short amount of time. Those things, well, unfortunately, they do. And the way that it works is those only last for a short amount of time, whereas the things that they gave to the rich, I don't have the details right here.
But he did want to make them permanent.
Those last forever. Well, again, yeah, they say that. But what happens is the people who get their benefits forever, in this case, were the rich.
Well, SALT deductions benefit the rich too.
They also took away the mortgage deduction tax, which was huge for the middle class.
That's a SALT deduction.
Yeah.
But that's a state tax. That's huge for the middle class if you're in a high tax state. If if your property taxes are small in South Carolina or somewhere, where they don't charge a lot of property taxes, you benefit more.
Wait, was that on the interest income or the property taxes?
You're writing off the local tax.
The interest income is gone
against your federal tax.
There used to be a major...
The interest,
there was a major...
That's the biggest problem, especially for new homeowners. Like, they're paying mostly interest.
Right. But, you're saying interest on a mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a major incentive for people to buy houses is that you could write off your interest. And that's one of the things that the Trump tax cut removed for the middle class.
Yeah, I know that for me, the first 10 years we owned our home, that was huge. We've gotten to the point now where
you can't write your interest off.
Well, it's kind of a wash for me anyway. Oh, sorry.
No, in general, you just can't. Like, it's just not an option now.
Yep, it's not a thing anymore.
I thought it was just capped because I wrote interest off on my last tax return.
I don't know. Your mileage may vary. Not a tax professional. ... But
right.
When I did it online, it was not an option anymore. So.
Okay. I mean, but like I said, you're getting, to me, as far as overall economic policy, there's a big difference from the details of the Trump tax cuts and printing $2 trillion and giving American citizens, $1,400 when you're charging them, $6,000 in debt.
Well, I don't know. I hate to spoil it for everybody, but I think economically this bill is going to be a huge success. And we're going to be looking at in 6 months when we get everyone vaccinated, assuming that we do defeat the COVID virus, which we need to actually do, not just open up before it's defeated.
Back to the economics of this.
Well, again, I mean, you guys, you're going to give me the libertarian doom and gloom theory that they printed money, so it's going to collapse the whole thing, man.
You're saying that, like,
I think that the way this works,
you want to pay less. You want to pay less, property taxes. Well, when housing prices inflate, you get your house reappraised, and then you end up paying, more in property taxes.
It depends on the state. California locked their property taxes a long time ago, and it's actually been tragic for our state. We have terrible schools now. But remember, the other side of taxes is revenue, and the other side of revenue is services. So all the things that we take for granted that we use every day and we don't even think about, those are all the services that are provided by the government. So sometimes it doesn't go to us directly, but it benefits us indirectly, like services for immigrants and
so of the
H-1B
$2 trillion
visas.
Federal budget, how much do you think are essential services?
Again, it's not a matter of like judging by services. I would start by cutting the military budget. So I think there's more than enough to cut in the military that we could,
but when you're talking about the overall federal budget, not the discretionary spending, the military is like, 300, 400 billion out of 2 trillion. The healthcare, healthcare services, is $1 trillion of it.
Well, healthcare, Americans get the worst deal in the world. We spend the most
because
money and we get the least quality of care.
Why is
because of private insurance companies that act as a middleman between the customer and the service that they're purchasing. I mean, most civilized countries use the government as a single payer of insurance so that it can do what insurance does, where if someone has a really bad case of something, the government has to pay, but most people are in the middle, so the government doesn't have to pay, so they save all that money and use it for the one really bad case, as well as having insurance against those cases.
But when the government's subsidizing insurance, they're paying middleman.
Well, of course. I mean, we have the Obamacare was not a single payer system. It was, we're getting closer. We're getting closer
but it made it worse.
Well, we have to look at
You're
this
saying it's got to get worse before it gets better?
From a GDP's perspective, if we cover all people and we have less people that are sick, more people that are working, doing anything, where the GDP is making more money. So that's good for everyone. So from a general plus, not just from like a moral, I want people to be healthy, But from a like actual my personal economic interests, it's better for me if you go to work and do whatever you do because that pumps up the GDP. So a healthy society
I'll
is
be
a
honest,
positive society.
My company does a lot of stuff like make sure there's a big salad bar at lunch, and we have yoga that we can do at lunch, and just like all kinds of activities. We have a nutritionist that we can call at my company,
right?
And they are not doing that out of the goodness of their heart, right?
Right.
They're doing that because they want me to be a better worker so that I can be more productive.
Right.
So I think probably the same logic would translate to say, hey,
a large federal government.
Well, if people are healthy, they work more.
I mean, our CDC, they can't even keep disease out of the country.
You gotta stop changing issues here because we
got to do it right.
They didn't appoint a CDC director.
We're
it's
off
a unique
economically, we have different views, but that's to me that's okay. I know it might not be to you, but
that's what makes conversations interesting. If everybody just agreed all the time, it would get boring real quick.
I do have a hard time wrapping my mind around Bitcoiners who love Bitcoin and understand what it does with hard money, who don't believe in Austrian economics. To me, that's confusing, but I'm not going to fault somebody for it.
Here's one of the realizations that I had, and actually this was listening to Andrew Yang, and he was talking about healthcare, and he said, look, if you drive your child to the hospital and they say your kid needs surgery, his appendix just burst, you're not going to go, so how much is that going to cost me? Right? You're not going to call the doctor down the street to get a price comparison. So
price transparency, right?
Yeah. So I think what it really is that Austrian economics is interesting, and it in a purely academic theoretical sphere, it is the right answer. But there are edges of that sphere, like healthcare, and where people make emotional decisions. People are people and not just consumers.
Government, to me, government is people too. And I think they make worse decisions. Like I just have a hard time. Like I think Austrian economics and healthcare in practice would drive prices down and make it more efficient and make it work better. I mean, but maybe I'm wrong. I understand what you're saying. I can see why healthcare is a delicate political issue.
And it's complex, right? And it's not just you can't just paint one brush. And I'll tell you, when I'm talking to people and debating people, the one thing that frustrates me the most is when if I'm talking about gun ownership with people and they go, well, Second Amendment. And I think
a one line answer to
right.
complex,
and I'm even a guy that is like, I don't want a gun.
Yeah,
right. You just escalate it, right? Yeah. But like, I don't own a gun, but
I don't either.
I don't feel necessarily bad that my neighbors do. Like, if shit goes down, I can run to my neighbor's house or something.
When it comes to political issues like that, it's emotional. You got the media gaslighting people, so like they don't have the ability to think about it and think through it, and and listen to an idea and a thought without reacting and not accepting it initially. Like, so I think that's a big part of it. So people get emotional and it stirs emotions.
And I think they end up just parroting other people, right? Like I heard somebody else say this, so I'm just going to repeat this, and then I'll be smart.
And that's both sides, in my opinion. I mean,
it is
not they get one-line answers. Politics loves slogans. They like things like that, and there's a lot of people in politics, in my opinion, though, that like that, and they want that stuff because it it gives them more importance and it makes them more valuable. They benefit personally from divisive politics, in my opinion, and they want to capitalize on it.
Absolutely.
But I don't think social media helps either. In productive political discussion.
Have you watched the Social Dilemma?
I haven't. But I read a lot about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating view on social media, and it's damage that it's doing to, especially to our youth. I'm a Gen Xer, so I kind of straddle the line a little bit.
Right.
It's weird to be part of like the missing generation, you know.
Yeah, watching. Right. We didn't have Facebook growing up, and watching people who do.
Right. But everybody, it's like, even I see all the arguments online, and everybody's saying, oh, you know, whatever boomer. It's always boomer, millennial, boomer, millennial.
Right. They have a perspective that
nobody ever says Gen X.
Right, Gen X. Right. Like, because we were on that line of boomer and millennial. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's a perspective from Gen Xers that really spurs, like that. There's a lot of Gen Xers in Bitcoin, in my opinion, and because
I think so too.
There's sides of them that's not brainwashed, and there's sides of them that sees, the faults in, our central banking systems, and they saw it all growing up,
Well, and I'd like to use that to go back to something you said earlier about how you didn't know how there could be a Bitcoiner that wasn't into Austrian economics. From just like a computer science perspective, I look at Bitcoin and I think it's like a line that's been crossed. Now that we have Bitcoin, there is Bitcoin, right? So it's not a matter of whether I approve of Bitcoin or not, right? Like, let's say
it's not a it's not a revolution that, you have to fight.
Yeah, it's like already happened. Like, there is Bitcoin, there's enough miners to maintain the network, there's enough interest to have some trading. Therefore, Bitcoin's generally working. So I could say that this leads us to that double-pronged question where on one side, I'm very happy because I think that, wars are started by buying weapons, and then you have the war, you destroy everything, then you have contracts to do the redevelopment, then once you've redevelopment, then you buy more weapons, then you destroy everything, and it's this kind of cycle where certain...
It's not as simple as buying weapons and fighting, for profit either.
We can follow the lines pretty clearly that, like, once you stock up on weapons, they're not good for anything else. You got all those planes sitting around, you better have a war. I don't want to quote wag the dog here, but if you don't have a war, what good is all that stuff, right?
Right.
It doesn't do you any good. Like, you could have just, like the F-135, we could have just bought anything instead of that. But so on one side, you can't fiat the money for the weapons anymore because that was always borrowing. The weapons were always bought on loan. They're always like, we're going to make a lot of money conquering our neighbors. You should loan us money.
But the military-industrial complex wasn't naturally created, in my opinion. Like,
well, again, it's based on these cycles of weapons and destruction that have built up bigger banks and big up military. And anyway, it's based on fiat. It's based on the ability to endlessly print money because you borrow. You borrow to go to war. Like, they always talk about the bonds that they're printing. That's borrowing. Like, and they're selling some of those bonds to the people, but a lot of those bonds they're selling to foreign banks and other large, powerful things.
Right.
So Bitcoin destroys that, right? This is our celebration side. This is like, it messes that up. Sure, it's still going to happen. They'll find a way to get the money. But the idea of printing money for war breaks because there's only 21 million Bitcoin. But we got to make sure.
Technology in general makes that harder too.
Well, the F-135 happened in the last 15 years, and it was the greatest boondoggle in history. It seems like it happened in slow motion. I remember hearing about it. The main thing I heard about it as a armor consumer or whatever is that there was a part built in every 50 state, in every single state, so that every senator and every congressman would support this airplane. And I was like, that is the worst idea to how to build an airplane I can even think of. So we're probably not going to do that anymore. But on the other side, when it comes to like Hurricane Katrina or whatever, Bruce Springsteen gets up there and sings, if we don't raise 10 Bitcoins for Hurricane Katrina, there won't be money. Like, there won't be money for the houses and all that. So people really have to fund things that matter to them. And the problem with the Austrian libertarian ideas, well, again, you say that you do, but you actually don't. The horrible truth is that humans are probably, and again, you're going to get mad, but humans are probably better off taking 10% of their money, putting it in a pooled group, and then using it as a pool to build a project that they couldn't build on their own, right? Like a road system.
Why do you think I'm going to get mad?
Well, libertarians can't stand it when you say that there's a purpose and a reason for government. Like, there's a reason we're doing this. Like, it makes more sense to work together. And once you translate that outwards, it has to do with compassion, and it has to do with like helping the people. And if you can dehumanize the people, you can have no compassion for them, and then you can treat them that way.
Dehumanizing. Austrian economics is not dehumanizing, in my opinion. It creates things and makes life better for humans.
I don't know.
The
I see
richest people are the most charitable. That's indisputable.
The people who have the most money are giving the most of it out. Again, it's a pretty obvious logic thing where it's like they're the ones that have it. Like it's a percentage. It's a percentage basis. Like, because you can't just say like you give away millions of dollars when you have billions. Like,
right, but human instinct is to want to help people and want to better things around you. You don't need a giant, a massive collective structure. The bigger the collective, the less exposed you are to it of the benefits. So like,
I don't know that like human instinct is totally good. That's a pretty tough position to start from. I'm I'm trying to argue that humans are good, but I'm looking at more like 51% good, 52%. Like I'm arguing the edges of this goodness.
If you're looking at it that way, I get what you're saying.
I mean, we've got to like the convincing, and it's hard because you got to get the people to say, oh, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's, it's part of the family.
Opinion, the smaller the community pool, the better. So like if every community, if you're closer to the pool, you see the benefits. You get more representation of that. So like to my opinion, local taxes are better than federal taxes. State taxes are better than federal taxes. Federal taxes should be absolutely last.
I don't know. It's all the same. It's just a matter of revenue and where's it going to what project.
It's not though, because the farther you're away from it, the more you can take out of it.
Well, again, we have representative democracy. You can contact your representative and so forth.
We have party politics where everybody's got to jump in and be on board, or they get primary. That's what I see.
Well, that's because of the great gerrymander of 2010, the Republican accomplishment. It was a fantastic gerrymander, the best that the world has ever seen. I mean this like you can tell based on the numbers.
I'm talking about party politics on both sides.
Well, it affected both sides. Let me tell you, I read a whole book about this, but the basic thing really.
You read a lot of.
Yeah, well, again, people got to spend their time. I spend it taking in information and receiving it. So the thing to remember about the gerrymander is that it was a huge success, right? They took over all of the state legislators that they needed. The Democrats weren't even trying to compete in the midterm elections. Obama had a ridiculous idea that they just needed to win 2 presidential elections, which they did.
How old are you?
I'm old enough, but
how old are you? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
You a Gen Xer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right.
But then, so they had this thing where the Obama, he only wanted to win the presidential election, so they went after these state houses. They won them all. They won all the government. Then they used computers to redraw the lines better than ever before. These new gerrymandered districts would make it so that, some districts would be all Republicans, other districts all Democrats. But what that did is it made it so that the only challenge you would have is from the far right in a right-wing district. The only challenge you'd have is from the far left in the left-wing. Well, you can look at the numbers. The numbers are all very clear, and the book was very clear on this.
He can prove his case with numbers.
The book's called Rat Fucked. The obscenity of the title should probably command the importance of the topic, because what they did in these districts, you could, if it's a 70, like a 60-40 district Republicans, that means that it's always going Republican. So as a person who's the normal Republican in there, let's say that you work together with a Democrat and you compromise, you do all this stuff, you get challenged from the right. And the guy on the right is making a very plain claim. He's like, I would never work with the Democrats. So
but the left does the same thing in Maryland. And so like,
I'm saying that the gerrymander goes backwards. It goes
both ways.
Yeah, and it worked. Like it worked too good. Like it just worked. It worked too good, and like they got what they wanted.
For his taste and your taste.
Well, for everyone, it destroyed it. It poisoned the whole well. right? We all drink from the well, and the entire well is poisoned now because the Republicans can't work with the Democrats
the
for
well
the challenge.
got too big.
And that's just that's a complexity argument. And considering I'm using a computer with millions of transistors and RAM and all this stuff, like we can handle complexity. Humans are very smart. We can make systems. It's just we haven't tried, and we're not focused on it all the time. And we're using 1700. We're using systems from 1776 that haven't really been updated. And we're also, people are being duplicitous and not being direct about what they want. So that's making compromise and other things impossible. But generally, I would say because of this gerrymander, there can be no compromise. And the way that the Senate is built is it's built on compromise. And this is the way that our government is built, is it's built to be slow. All right, 100% built to be slow and built to be compromising. And like if we can't compromise, we can't government. And we're having more lightning strikes here. I might lose power, FYI, if I disappear. But yeah, man, I really think it's about this gerrymander. And they thought that it would be good for the Republicans, right? Because they would win all of these districts, and the Democrats would only win the Democrat districts, right? So they thought that would be good, but it actually wasn't, because what it ended up doing for our conversation, and this is where people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and these other far right people who've gotten into the
is there far left people in your opinion?
There's absolutely far left people that this has benefited. I mean, let's go right up to the top. AOC in Queens is one of the most left-wing districts. It's not a matter of gerrymandering. It just happens to be people who live there, etc. And so there are left and basically I would say the same things. Like
modern examples of manipulating the electorate from the left, in your opinion?
Well, of course, the census is only every 10 years. So if we go back to the 2000 census, I would totally agree that the Democrats tried to manipulate the gerrymander, the districts, in the same way with kind of like primitive stone tools, right?
So you're saying they fought back?
No, I'm saying that you have to read the book. Like you have to learn about. It's called.
I get what you're saying.
The Republican program is called Project Red Map, right? And this program is a comprehensive program. This is in the entire country. And they said, okay, this state legislator, this governor, this state legislator, this governor, this map. And they did them all. Like they went for the whole thing. That's one part, the size of the strategy, and that this was a dedicated strategy. This is like
there's more dedicated strategies today than that.
Well, but this is well funded and dedicated, and it's so obscure.
So is NGP, and Cambridge Analytica, and that stuff.
Those are small time compared to this. This is like
I mean, how long before artificial intelligence makes all this stuff pointless?
Well, pretty much their gerrymander did that. The first part is the size, that they went everywhere. The second part is the degree and the fineness of this gerrymander. The kind of data they have now that they included, and again, I don't have the exact details, but stuff like your Amazon shopping history. They know if you're liberal or not. They also knew where people are gonna. They know where people are gonna move. Like these maps were, descriptive over time. Like compared to what they had in 2000, seriously, like stone tools. And I can't imagine what they have now, what the 2020 maps are going to look like, and so forth. There are starting to be court cases where they basically said this is no good for either side.
Cambridge Analytica got reamed, and they were talked about as poison, and they broke up pretty much, and they couldn't get a contract. But other ones popped up, and they're doing the same thing. So like, that's
a whack-a-mole situation.
It is.
Well, and we have the same problem now with voting rights, where just in Georgia they passed a bill that takes away a lot of people's voting rights.
But they can't do that type of. Now you're changing issues. But like I'm saying though, when you can't do that stuff without big pool and big money.
Well, of course, it's about money, but the main thing here to understand
without
is that
a huge pool,
on one side they're arguing about government, and they're arguing about issues. On the other side, their issues are not popular enough. And they've not chosen to try to make their issues more popular or try to rebrand them or try to.
I think their issues should be localized.
Well, whatever it is, their issues are not popular enough, and they've decided to try to win by affecting the system, right? This is like if I was losing in the game of Monopoly and I decided I would just start changing the rules. The Republicans. I'm sorry,
the Democrats
my friend.
don't do that on any issues.
The Democrats seem to be. They have a different problem. the Democrats seem to be very technocratic.
They don't have any unpopular issues
they're technocratic about solving the issues. So the Democrats' problem would be someone like Elizabeth
They're too
Warren.
analytical.
She has a plan for everything. She's studying the details. She has the bills, and people look at that and they think it's too much, right? It's over prepared. It's like Hillary. I think a lot of people thought of her as the character in Election. What's her name? But the character in Election, where she's just so prim and proper and prepared, and everyone hates her. She's like the teacher's pet, and they're like, "Yeah, that girl does her homework too much," you know.
Yeah,
so the Democrats are the nerds who do their homework too much, and they also think that it's only about the policy, right? They're always like, if I just explain it to you with the charts and the graphs and the policy, you will understand what I'm saying, and you'll come to my side, right? But it's not about that. It's about the emotions and the heart and the religion and all these other nonsense issues that people vote on, right? Yeah, the memes.
Yeah,
and the Democrats, they're like fuddy-duddy professors. They're like, why is our charts and graphs not working? Why are these memes and religions and maniacs being so successful at convincing
I don't
people?
Think they are now.
Well, I hope so. They're getting better now, but still I hear this nonsense about bipartisanship.
I mean, they got massive,
like the Republicans it's like the Republicans are out there having a straight war with like machine guns, and the Democrats show up with like knives.
I think you underestimate the
like, let's have a tea party. Too. Let's have a tea party.
I think both sides see it that way.
Well, I think the
right sees they don't fight enough, and I think the left sees that they don't fight enough, and I think they're both wrong. Like, I don't see it that way. Like, the left is ruthless on some issues, and because they know they can win the emotional argument. And
I don't know. I think that the only place the left is ruthless is in the minds of the right-wing commentators. I think that they have a complete bizarre.
You are such a Californian.
No, I'm sorry, man. Well,
every time I'm in San Diego, any kind of political discussion, this is where it goes.
I've read Rush Limbaugh's books. I know what these people are saying. I've watched the shows.
Yeah, but not every Republican is a Rush Republican.
Again,
not every Democrat is an AOC Democrat.
The idea there, again, to just recap, is that they can't win on the numbers, and their issues are not popular enough. Like, you can't convince enough people about like the wealth tax or whatever the issues is. So if you can't win that way, the numbers are what the numbers are, man. That if everyone voted, it would be like 60-40 Democrat. Or maybe even 70-30.
Democrat.
If every person in the country voted,
registering Democrat is not a vote.
The problem is, the simple problem is that
registering
the Republican
Democrat
ideas are less popular, and they're not fighting in a battle of ideas.
Do you know why Democrats
they're fighting
have more,
to try to restrict access to the polls.
Votes, you know why Democrats have more registrations? Because they're more organized. And they get.
I disagree, dude. I think that the Republicans
are. I've been at parties in high school in Pennsylvania, and girls, Democrat activists have come up to me registering people to vote.
The Republicans are a minority party that are doing an amazing job of holding on to like a last limb of power, and they're just hedging everything. I think you underestimate
the temperament, the sentiment in the country. I do. I think you misconstrue
the country doesn't matter. Land doesn't vote. People live in cities. And the current system is disadvantaging people who live in cities.
Being a registered Democrat is not a vote.
The main question we're having here is how long are the people in cities going to let the people who live on land tell them what to do and block all their legislation? And we're seeing it. The last thing in the Senate is the filibuster. The filibuster currently has been removed for judges and Supreme Court judges, right? You can no longer filibuster those things. The question is...
Hey, Thomas,
I've heard all this stuff
before.
Before.
Legit question.
Will the filibuster...
When you say if 60% of the people, if everybody voted, then 60% of the people would be Democrat. Like, how do you know 60% would be Democrat?
When they poll people on the issues, you can poll people on any issue, like do they like... universal Democrat, do they like universal health care? And it comes back like 60-40. Do you believe that people have human rights? 60-40.
Do you think abortion should be unrestricted?
Yeah, 60-40. Again, all these things, the majority of the country. But you see, we have this system that protects minority rights, like on this abortion thing. So the minority rights are like
do you agree
rising
with higher
up.
Taxes? Do you agree? Like, there are issues where the Democrats think they have the majority, but they don't. And there are issues where the Republicans think they have the majority of, if everybody understood the actual issue and debated it, that they would win. On both sides, that not we you don't we neither you or me understands the sentiment of 360 or 310 million voting age people like we think we do. Most of them haven't even gone through the issues, even if they are registered Democrats.
Well, again, we can look at the actions
You're just
of the
assuming
parties.
that they would register Democrats.
We can look at the actions of
Democrats.
people like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders putting out their plans and describing what they're going to do. And we can look at the actions of the Georgia Republicans who are trying to cut off people's access to the polls. They're trying to reduce voting.
I think
all of these things that they did a few days ago are about reducing voting. You can look at Florida knocking people off the ballots because their names matched a list. They did
dead voters should be knocked off the ballots, though. Don't you agree?
It wasn't dead. It wasn't just dead voters. They expanded it. They're always looking to expand it because they're looking to restrict rights. I think the other way. I think that every person in the U.S. should be automatically registered to vote when they turn 18, and the pamphlet should just come to your house. And you know how we know where you live? Because you pay taxes and you have a social security number.
You know how we know where you live? We're going to find you if you don't vote.
Again, you pay taxes and you have a social security number. I don't think it's a free country at all. I think that it's been a closed country since the Federal Reserve in the 20s.
We should force people to vote.
No, I think you should get used to reality. And I think that if it is a representative democracy, everyone should have the right to vote and the right to actually do it. Not the right, the theoretical right to vote.
You're saying they should have to.
I'm also fine with whatever it's called in Australia. They have automatic voting, or where you get, basically it's a penalty. If you don't want to vote, you pay a tax penalty to not vote, which again is perfectly satisfactory. Because what's the goal of the democracy? Well, no, voting is the goal of the democracy, like the shared power. Like we don't have a dictatorship.
Not our world, though. Like government,
What do you mean government's not our world?
You have the right.
Go out into the world and find me something not made by government, like the electricity, the dollar, the everything. No, and again, government is just people. Government is people sharing ideas together. Governments and corporations are groups of people working together to share ideas. What is not made by these people? If it's made by these people, why should we not try to control it? And why should we not have a representative system? Like we've gone through the other systems. We've gone through warlords, right? We're going to go through warlords again. The theory right now on planet Earth is that democracy, a representative system where the people have a voice, is the best system, and that the best thing is where everyone has a voice. So why wouldn't you want everyone to vote? Well, but why wouldn't you want everyone to vote?
Warlords force people to vote.
Okay, but I already said you brought up forced voting, so I'm saying not forced voting. I'm talking about signing everyone up. When you show up at the polling place, if you have a driver's license, even if you don't have a driver's license, if you're a human being,
even if you don't have a driver's license.
Well, again,
so even if you're not an American citizen.
Well, no, if you're not rich and you don't own a car, or if you're not old and you can't drive, or if you're poor, I think you should be able to vote too. So you got to chill out with the driver's license thing. Everyone's like, everyone has a driver's license except for 80-year-old people who don't drive. We're not going
to agree on a lot of things.
Well, no, the reality disagrees with you. The facts have a liberal bias. What's going to happen is you're going to disagree with me, and it's going to come back to you later.
Emotional Republican.
You'll read some articles, and it'll turn you around. And but again, go back to this. Everyone signed up.
From the left,
why should we have barriers? Why should we have barriers to voting?
Because of security and making sure that the only people who are voting are the right people to vote, and we only get one vote per citizen.
Describe the size. Describe the size of the voting fraud problem in the current reality, not in the 1920s or the 1960s. Go.
Yeah, but you're asking me to prove a negative. Like you can't say, oh, this many people illegally voted if you don't know they voted. Like you have to secure it first. It's like saying like describe something that doesn't exist because you haven't found it or you're not looking for it.
Yes, but how do I secure something that's already secure? The voting system's already secure, man.
we went through 4 years of you saying that Russia manipulated the election in 2016.
It's a question of propaganda confusing people through a Facebook campaign versus the reality of people walking in and marking it on a box. Again,
I've seen videos of people going to registered people who registered to vote to their address, and there's nothing there. There's
videos, man. I've seen videos of Tom Cruise. I've seen Tom Cruise fake videos with his face on his thing.
You can Google map the actual place
I've seen
they go
stuff
to.
on videos, man. It's not about videos. It's about court cases. It's about people that actually study things. This is the cleanest election in history. You got to get over it, man.
How do you define clean?
Define clean is without fraud. The amount of voter fraud is less than 1%. Can you prove that it's more than 1%? Because there's every time it's always been, it's like 5 people who voted wrong in the thing because they were in the wrong address. It's like three, immigrants that voted. It's never numerically substantial. It's never substantial enough to flip the election. So it never has any validity.
I'm not saying it's enough to flip the election.
So basically what you're saying is that you can't prove there's a problem, and yet we should apply your solution.
If I do show you there's a problem, you'll say it's not widespread enough that we don't have to worry about it. Is what you're saying.
Again,
it won't flip the presidential election, so we don't have to worry about it.
It won't flip anything. It's non-existent.
So we don't have to worry about it, right?
It's non-existent. It's not a thing. Now, here's what I want to say.
It's not big enough to worry about.
Here's what's happened is, in the past, in the 1920s, the mob used to go around and they'd get people to wear different clothes and they'd get them drunk and they'd take them to different polling places and they'd vote. The mob, the mafia, the party bosses. Sure, at the time the Democrats.
Party did they make them go vote?
Sure, at the time the Democrats were controlled by the mob, man. I don't know what you want to say. Tammany Hall was a Democratic institution. This is all historical fact. Like no one's in denial of this. But I got a great story about Edgar Allan Poe. Because what's going on here is they'd get these people and they'd make them wear different clothes. And at each stop, they'd give them a shot and they'd send them in and have them vote. And that's why they found Edgar Allan Poe drunk in someone else's clothes and dead, right? So, but that was in the 20s, man.
So you're saying
that was
no,
I'm saying there's been changes. I'm saying there's been changes, man. There's been technology about voting, and the fraud isn't there anymore. The fraud's not there, man. I don't know how to tell you, but the fraud's not there.
They had snail mail in 1960.
It's just not there, and it's not there where you're looking for it. I'm interested in tabulating machines. I'm interested in the tabulating machines.
I'm not talking about the tabulating machines, though. Like, that's not what I mean.
Again, because that's the way to actually rig an election. Like, the things you're talking about, they're statistically insignificant. Statistically insignificant. There's no voting fraud. It's nonsense.
How do you know? Like,
that's why, again, you want to restrict access to the polls.
You're talking about gerrymandering. How do you know
fraud.
how they affect the local election?
Local elections are generally nonpartisan for city council and other things. We can agree on
that. You just told me states came and dragged people to the polls. They used to do that. Now you're telling me local elections are nonpartisan.
Again, in the 1920s, I'm saying there's been a change. There's been a change since the 1920s.
The shot in a vote.
There's been a change since the 1920s. There's also been a change since the 1960s. In the 1960s, it does seem historical fact, like the mob and Joe Kennedy did seem to have dead people vote in Chicago for Kennedy in 1960. So we have 2 historical facts, one from 1920 and one from 1960. But the problem is we live in 2020, and a lot of things have happened since then. And the voting fraud is not substantial. It's not widespread. Like you say, voting, like vote by mail. Again, when you describe the process, it gets ridiculous. You're like, oh, ballot harvesting. Well, they go around and they buy a bunch of ballots from people individually, or they steal them individually from their mailboxes. So one at a time, you need hundreds of thousands of votes to impact an election. And you're saying they steal them one at a time? Who has the time and the manpower for that? It's ridiculous. It's simply not done. Now, if you want to talk about the tabulation machines, that's interesting. And I've said for a long time, since the year 2000, that the vote tabulation machine should be open source and that the hardware should be open hardware, and we should be able to verify what's being counted there. And that we should have a trackable paper record for all ballots, which is very easy. When you have a recount, the humans can go through the paper record again and they can verify the count. No, the problem is not in the voter fraud. The problem is the people trying to restrict access to voting. The people who don't want the will of the people to be expressed, because the will of the people is against their programs. And they're no longer trying to compete in a battlefield of ideas. I love a battlefield of ideas. I wish I could point to the Republican COVID relief bill. I wish they'd bothered to make one. I wish they said, oh, well, you have a $1.9 trillion stimulus. We have also right here a 1.2 stimulus, but they don't bother making one. They didn't package together. They're not running a shadow legislator. They're just going to say, these are bad, these won't work. And years down the line, when they do work, and I think on this stimulus, we're going to find out really quick that giving money to normal people during a crisis like this works the way you think it would. And no, happy Bitcoiners, they don't just go out and stack sats. Real people have rent to pay. Real people have food to buy, and they'll spend that money. That's how this stimulus works, and that's how it's going to work. So I don't know how we got completely dragged onto political topics, but it says in the chat here, Joint Specialist says, history destroys right-wing propaganda. And that really is the problem. The more that you learn, the more that you know, the more likely you are to become a liberal person, right? The more likely you are to be like, gosh, everything has consequences. Everyone is somebody's son or daughter. I don't think, racial issues is nonsense. It's not actually a scientific thing. It's just not real. We should really just try to do the best for people while they're around here. We should try to make things better. And we had someone on here a few days ago that was talking about the 5 kind of basic freedoms. And I don't remember them all, but it was like the right to clean water, clean food, a place to live, like freedoms like that. And that's what I think we should do. I mean, we have this GDP, we need it to go up. Also, we're in a unique time period where we're switching over from the GDP-driven growth capitalism to conservationist capitalism, which I don't even know if it's a thing yet. And again, it's probably an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. How can you be capitalist and interested in growth and profit, but at the same time be a conservationist and interested in preserving things? And I think, again, coming to grips with contradictions is what we have to do. Like, that's the part of being human. That's what the Buddha does. That's what we have to do, is take these hard issues and smash them together and find a compromise. And that's unfortunately what our government's been unable to do, and I believe strategically will be unable to do. I really do think it's possible that you need to go back and read the book Rat Fucked by David Daly. He's used to work at Salon. He was one of the major editors at salon.com. And he's written a second book, too, about the same issue. I haven't read a second book. But in Rat Fucked and the Great Gerrymander of 2010, it's very clear, when you're playing a board game or something like that, it's always better to be the dungeon master, right? It's always better to be the banker, the one who makes the rules, the one who's writing the maps, who's redrawing the ground underneath the game, right? And I really think they were incredibly successful at redrawing the rules. I think they were far too successful. I draw the parallel to the Japanese commander in 1941 when they bombed Pearl Harbor, and they had such incredible success at preserving their aircraft. The Japanese lost almost 0 aircraft. That's a pun. But they almost lost 0 zeros on the first and the second wave. And because of this, the commander lost sight of his objectives. His objectives were to destroy the oil derricks at Pearl Harbor, and he had not destroyed them yet. He'd had a fantastic sneak attack. None of the American anti-aircraft guns were working, and he chose to withdraw without accomplishing his objective. So actually, I think historically Pearl Harbor was a huge failure for the Japanese. It alerted the Americans, it angered them, they struck back, they rebuilt, and because of the failure to launch a third wave, where certainly he would have taken casualties, they would have lost many zeros, they failed to destroy the oil derricks and they failed to accomplish their objectives. So in the same way, do I think the Republicans in the Great Gerrymander of 2010 were too successful. The Democrats were not prepared at all, and they fell horribly, allowing the Republicans to do anything they want with the maps, which led to a system where compromise on both sides is now impossible. If you compromise with someone and you're a Republican, you'll be challenged from the right. Since you're in a district that only a Republican could win, you have no chance. The same way for the Democrats. If you compromise and you're a Democrat, you'll be challenged by someone on the left. Look at AOC. How did AOC get her seat? She was further to the left than the gentleman that was in there before. He was like Nancy Pelosi's right-hand man. He was a very popular and powerful politician who'd been in there for 30 or 40 years. But I would argue, because of the success of the gerrymander of 2010, AOC's seat was so incredibly left-wing, and it's Queens anyway, but she was able to unseat him. She also ran a magnificent campaign and worked very hard. But this rule remains. More and more strident legislators from the far left, more and more strident legislators from the far right. And now we have something that just happened where a bill like the COVID Relief Act that has 75% support amongst the American people, which is unbelievable. Nothing has 75% support. Rock music, baseball, like nothing. The national pass, anything. Nothing has 75% support except for this bill. And yet 0 Republicans voted for it. So they're about 30% at the current level of Senate people. And yet 0 of them voted. I just think it's a very broken system. That's why it's good that we have Bitcoin. But again, this kind of chaos is not good for anyone. If the system collapses, it's not good. Like everyone, there's a lot of people that are like, yay, it'll be anarchy and we'll get to do what I want and I'll have my own system here in New Hampshire and we'll have our own government. Yeah, if you can, outlast the warlords, like those guys who are marauding around in Mad Max, the crazy guys in Waterworld with the jet skis. Every time society breaks down, it always goes back to warlords. And then it's just about power and strength and armies and all these kind of things. And that reduces our ability to make computer chips, right? That it reduces our ability to make awesome websites like Twitter Spaces and YouTube and all these other things because we're too busy killing each other, right? We've got to make awesome killing technologies. So I think we lose sight of that. And I think we lose sight of the potential destruction of all this. So as Bitcoiners, you might have gotten a life raft out of this, but what about all the other people? And that, of course, goes to the whole zombie metaphor. At once it was consumerism in the 80s, and the zombies in the malls were full of mindless consumers. Now the zombie metaphor is the developing world. It's the immigrants that think they have it better here in America, so they're going to come here and get a piece of it for themselves, or the same thing in Europe with the refugees and the crisis. And then, of course, the key scene that I always think about in that is that scene in World War Z, at least the movie version, where the zombies use their own bodies to build up a ramp and then climb over the wall. The metaphor being that no matter how high your citadel, no matter how disconnected you think you are, they can always breach the defenses. As Patton said, General George S. Patton, fixed fortifications are a monument to the stupidity of man. And I've always thought that's true because you can find them, and once you've found them, you can plan about how to destroy them. And no matter what it is, you can eventually accomplish it. So I don't think there's a citadel big enough or a tower tall enough that you can hide from. Even Mars and Elon's plan to survive when the ships stop coming from Earth, I don't think is a good plan. I think it's an escape raft. I think it's a chickening out. I think staying here and fixing things is the good plan. But it's going to be a lot harder than just sitting on the side and watching it all fall. Well, it feels like we talked for a while here. As Crypto Player says, today is South Park vaccination special. That sounds great. I totally look forward to that. It seems like it's been a long time since the pandemic special, and I know that that went really well for everyone. South Park's been amazing recently, although I just wish it was on every week. I never know when it's on anymore. But thanks so much to everybody for joining us. Sorry we got too political there. Got a little out of control, Republicans and Democrats. Try to talk about Bitcoin, but then, just Bitcoin is a really unique thing that's connected to everything else. So you can never stay non-political because pretty soon it's connected. So it's a total valid reason for bringing it up. I think we're going to head to the end of the show. So thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and to subscribe down below. You can also join us on Twitter Spaces. We're going to try to have more of these discussions. And if you'd like to join the World Crypto Network Twitter Space Force, you can sign up with the form, which is available on Twitter at World Crypto Net and at Mad Bitcoins. Just has some basic information about what kind of show you'd like to do, what time you'd like to do it, how we can contact you, stuff like that. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.